September 7th, and we're being recorded. Today is September 7th, 2021. We've got a big meeting tonight, so we'll start with city updates. Ms. Solano.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, City Council, and Mayor Gradisar. Can you hear me, or do I need to speak louder with my mask?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. I have a COVID update and a Colorado State Fair update, and the ARPA update will happen throughout the rest of the work session this evening. With respect to the COVID update, the 1 week cumulative positive case count as of this afternoon was 180.2. And that is up from the last time I reported to you 2 weeks ago from 139.2. And continuing to grow slightly. The 1 week positivity rate as of today was 4.2%. That was up from 3.6% a few weeks ago. We do have 9 days of stabilized hospitalizations due to COVID, but they're stabilized at a hospital patient count of 33 as of today. So that is still a bit higher than it has been for Parkview, and I have no information about St. Mary Corwin. The COVID equity and outreach team still is vaccinating in the city. The buses will be at the libraries, and the locations and times are available on the city's website, the Facebook, the police department Facebook, the health department's Facebook, and there are still $100 gift cards as a vaccine incentive through September the 15th, which is next week. The health department reported this morning that Pueblo County is now at 58.8% vaccination, up from 57%. That leaves 85,102 that have received their vaccination. The goal does still remain at a 70% rate. And the 85,102 is out of the data from the state demographer's office of 144,823 eligible individuals in Pueblo County. And we are at 85,102. To move over to the Colorado State Fair Parade this past weekend, I just wanted to share kudos that the city's parade float was awarded first place in the civic and community organizations category. So the parade committee was just really pleased with their work and their creative idea. And in 1 week, they turned the same basic concept from a rodeo theme to a fiesta theme, and it rolled back out this past Sunday. And so they did, kudos to all of them. They did a good job. Last Saturday at the fair, it was also Mayor's Day. There were 23 mayors from throughout the state that attended with their families for a total of 135 guests that visited the state fair, some for the first time. They attended the sponsored luncheon. Also, the local mariachi group from Grupo Folclórico de Pueblo provided the entertainment. It was comprised locally of both adults and children. They were all very fabulous, but a 5-year-old who played the violin and she also sang. She stole the show and she stole the hearts of everyone, including wanting a picture with Mayor Gradisar. I think Phoenix is his new friend. She was a dear. The luncheon featured a farm-to-table menu with all locally sourced food, and it was a hit also. And so it was a lovely Mayor's Day at the Colorado State Fair, with the invitation for all to attend the follow-up slopper eating competition that was on the fairgrounds. And our own deputy mayor, there she is. I wasn't thinking she was in the room. She represented the city and the fire department and herself well. We won't talk about whether she won or not. She didn't. There was a national championship, but she's well. She's back to feeling good again today. You have to ask her how many sloppers she ate. And really that concludes the ARPA, that includes the update from the city, and the ARPA update will follow throughout the work session. You have any questions or directions for requests from me?
Thank you, Ms. Solano. Any questions, comments? Bob?
Just a thought, those people worked their rear ends off on that float and won awards, right? Think they'd mind coming in and being recognized? You can ask them.
I don't think they would.
I mean, I think that's pretty amazing. So If we could do some kind of feel good for them. Who are you looking at?
My boss.
Oh, well, that's just a question. I don't need an answer now. I just asked a question. Thank you.
I had one question on the vaccinations for city employees. Do you have any numbers yet? On the program that you instituted?
Yeah, we've got some preliminary numbers, and some of the departments are 80% vaccinated. Police and fire are way down. Parks, 46% of the employees in parks. Now that's probably due to a lot of them being seasonal and part-time, but we'll have a lot better idea when we get to the 15th of September. But we have gotten some preliminary reports in from people turning in their cards. So it in some of the departments is pretty high, 80% vaccination rate.
Well, keep us posted.
We will.
We'll move on to number 2 on the agenda, which is the Westgate development update. Ms. Winans and Mr. Bay. I don't see Jack unless he's hiding behind a mask. Let's go. Thank you guys for coming. It's good to see you. Thank you.
If I can make a comment, even when we were separated with things, people were able to take off their mask when we talk. And for me, it's a lot easier to hear them. So it would be your call.
If you feel comfortable taking off your mask to speak to us, that's fine. If you just want to leave it on, leave it on. That's up to you. And I'd say that to everybody.
So that means the mic's on now? Yes. All right. So I don't. Yep. So Jack has actually taken the lead on the Westgate Guardians side of this. But NeighborWorks has sort of joined forces in this process because NeighborWorks also has a large development happening on the west side. And we recognize how disproportionately disconnected the west side is because of a lack of infrastructure connecting major parts. And there's Jack.
Jack, you can come on up. It's great to see you, Mr. Bay.
So we're just getting started, Jack.
Perfect.
The PowerPoint is up there. If you want to speak to some of the Westgate Guardians pieces of it, and then I'd be
Sure.
happy to speak to the NeighborWorks side.
You bet. Thank you, folks, and I apologize for being late. I didn't think the auditors were going to take me that long. Really what we're doing is kind of provide you a little bit of a mini update. I know we got a new member, Ms. Macaulay Pachicha, that's on board, but where we're at right now, I just had a meeting briefly a little bit ago in regard to some stuff that's going on over there. And we're actually submitting another grant right now for a legacy grant for $1.7 million. It's going to be a legacy between our new school and our other school that we have. You know, instead of putting a detention area as requested by our engineers over there, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a retention area that's going to be more of a legacy area as well. So one of the things we're doing though, but you know, keep in mind what we're doing is we're requested roughly about $4.4 million, basically for water and sewer infrastructure along the streets of 19th Street, 17th Street, 18th Street, connecting, basically providing connectivity for the lower west side onto 24th Avenue. And right now, 24th Avenue has been a little bit blocked because of the road construction there, but that will be nearing completion, but it provides us an opportunity to circulate our traffic patterns throughout the area that we're in. If you're familiar with the Westgate area, if you've been over there, we have roughly almost every street we have in somewhere. It doesn't have total connectivity. And that's one of the things that we're looking to do. Let alone, I know, and Ashley and I've talked a little bit about this, is having public transport. We have actually no transportation right now. No public transportation enters the lower west side right now in Westgate and Hyde Park. And I think that's an issue. But what we're doing is we're roughly planning to build roughly about 350 homes. And we do have a site now that we've actually dedicated. And this is working with Brian Gallagher a little bit and trying to figure out a product mix. We're like actually trying to provide a little bit of affordable housing. And so we figured out how to do a rent to own product. And if you've ever seen the news now across the United States, that's a product that's really just growing by leaps and bounds. A lot of major builders are jumping into that program because it provides somebody an opportunity to get into a home and through a program of not only helping them through sweat equity, actually be able to buy that house as well. And there's also some attributes in there being able to stay in there for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years is forgiven. So it's a tremendous program for anybody that's looking to get in a new home, especially young folks or even senior folks that are stepping down. But when all's said and done, what we'll end up generating on our side, and I got some new numbers. One of the things that we did was, I had, because when Alyssa asked me to get this done, I was in Chicago. And so between my flight and trying to get back, I wanted to make sure I had the PowerPoint and some rough numbers. But really, what we're asking for between Ashley and myself, we're asking for a request of an investment of $4.4 million, because in return, we will be able to deliver to you just on the Westgate side of it. I've got some stuff that I'll hand out here in a little bit. Up here, if I can find it. It's roughly about $6 million. Between both of us, Ashley, because she's going to be building about 650 homes, we're going to build 350 homes. And so the total of it, for an investment roughly of $9 million that you'll be able to recover in about 4.7 years. But beyond that, we'll generate anywhere from $6 to $7 million a year in annual tax. Just in the annual tax revenue is $6.2 million. Let alone the additional revenue that we felt that, some additional spin-off revenue would be able to generate there as well. But what we're doing right now, we're in for the best grant. Matter of fact, I would swear I just came from, because I was on the auditors with a few things that we're doing. Chavez Huerta is actually ponying up $4.9 million for a $35 million building. Our current building right now, which is going to house our middle school in transition until we get our best grant done. Right now, it's 3 weeks ahead of schedule. We will actually open up in the fall of 22, which is this time next year. We'll be open and operational. The best grant will come right behind that. And what we're doing, if you're familiar with the school on the west side of the campus, we're actually going to add our middle school. On the east side of the school, we're going to redo our high school. Instead of one story, it'll both be 2 stories. They'll meet in the middle. There'll be a little black box, kind of a theater area in the middle, such that they can, and both schools are going to be able to face each other. I mentioned the legacy grant that we'll have in the middle. That'll be able to showcase the Latino Hispanic heritage in the middle of that. We're working on getting our $2.2 million transportation facilities building underway. We'll actually start that in February or March of this year, or this coming year, and that'll be done as well in the fall of next year. I just got a brief update on our stadium that we're looking at doing, and that's actually looking really pretty good. It's going to be about a $6.5 million stadium that we're planning on putting about 2,000 seats there. And part of it is, it's kind of a mini CSU Pueblo, but it's going to be dedicated really for play at high school level and anything else. But it's a community field. And so we're not doing it basically for Chavez Huerta. We're doing it for anything we want to do there. So if we want to bring in soccer, we want to bring in a band, we want to bring in something that needs an artificial turf, we have it. So that's in general, kind of, we're making roughly about $160 million or $100 million investment, just the school. When we look at the total development cost that we're going to do is roughly about $270 million investment over the next 3 to 5 years, if we can just get started. One of the questions I ask is, and I appreciate Mayor Gradishar's willingness to help us on 18th Street. We're right now finalizing the engineering. We met with the city folks about 2 weeks ago. They gave us their input and stuff. So we're now finishing revising the engineering with their input and bringing it back. We hope to have that by Thursday of this week. And Monday we can actually go down and visit with planning and zoning. So, okay, how are we going to get this street built? Ashley, you're up.
Okay.
So there's a lot of development happening on the west side, and we want to make sure that it's highlighted here with council and that there's an understanding of what's happening. I know that a lot of the ARPA funds may not be able to go to direct infrastructure outside of water and sewer, but we want you to be aware of that because we also see infrastructure packages coming down that will be able to highlight these programs as well. Councilman Schilling, as you probably know, the west side is very disconnected from the rest of town. As Jack alluded to, streets start and stop. We currently are in the development of the Hyde Park Gardens neighborhood, where we have 16 homes actually in progress right now. In order to get to what will be the Pikes Peak Park subdivision, which is 75 acres on Pueblo's west side, just on the north side of 24th, where Spalding actually should be coming through from 31st all the way down to 24th. You have to go around about 8 blocks to get there. That's 2 blocks away. So the development that we're doing right now is what 22nd should be. You can see it from 24th Street where our new land is, but you can't get there. People have been disproportionately really impacted by COVID because of these things. There's no access to public transportation. There are no fresh food access over there on the west side. There's very hard access to be able to get emergency services over there. So infrastructure is really critical to be able to get people access to those things. With our particular development, which you have a packet on, and I will let you read through that. I won't read it to you. It's got a lot of information, but we've already gone through a full master planning process. We submitted for a metro district to help maintain all of the community spaces, as well as a PUD today. The metro district was 2 weeks ago. So we're well into the progress with that. We're looking at breaking ground next summer with horizontal infrastructure, should all of our planning go well. It is a mixed use, mixed income subdivision. As Jack alluded to, affordable housing is something that we need desperately in our community. And we are looking at a shared equity model within this. This is something that a lot of our financial institutions throughout the United States are looking at as a means to creating larger gap funding and to keep homes permanently affordable. There's some of that information in here, and I'm happy to answer questions. But with that, we'll be looking to partner with a multifamily builder to create several different LIHTC or affordable housing projects. We have condos, townhomes, single family rear loaded, and single family homes within that mix. I've already raised well over $5 million that'll go towards the affordable housing piece. Like I said, we've acquisitioned the land. What we're really looking for is the city to step up and take some responsibility in the infrastructure to get people access to public transportation. The other piece that is in part of the ask that we put to the ARPA was connecting to the trail system. The trail system currently that the city has planned to go all the way up ends at 18th Street. That would give people access to ride bikes, a walking system, running all the way down to the nature center, to the river walk, all throughout the city. So creating those access points are going to be a huge piece to that. And then long term, really looking to the city to make that connection from what will be about 27th, where our subdivision ends, to 31st. That will allow us to, and we've talked to transportation already, get bus transportation that'll go all the way up past Cesar Chavez Academy, all the way to like the Y, and mental health services and dental services and higher education services. And that would be just transformational on the west side.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, one of the neat things about it, with my former background of being a builder and developer, I can be a tremendous asset to Ashley. I and my partner are former builders, especially on the lifestyle development stuff that Bruce represents. From here, I'm representing CHPA because as I shared with you, my real thing is, and we're not rebuilding our schools to add capacity to school. That's not the point of reason we're doing. I know Mr. Flores can attest that, in our buildings right now, our kids represent, their classrooms that they're in is about 400 square feet. A typical classroom is about 1,100 square feet. So really all we're trying to do is get kids into a normal setting so they can have the same opportunity for 21st education. But I think one of the beauties of things that a lot of what's the builders and developers that are beginning to look at Pueblo now are looking at product that she has available with her master plan. And her and I have not even had this conversation, but there's plenty of folks that I can give her contacts that we can be able to make that happen. what we reached out to Bruce Martin, and unfortunately Bruce got a cold. I know he doesn't want to speak too much, but we did have an opportunity to spoke with a couple of developers out of Denver to look really at what it, and we can, the developer would more than be happy to come down and to, or even provide a letter indicating that, the cost of development in Pueblo is higher than it should be in proportionate to what a developer typically would take. Because there is an awful lot of collaboration that's going on between builders. As we said, Fort Morgan is actually doing it right now. But what we're really asking, we're not asking for, the city to be able to just give us the money, because we're going to return this money roughly in about 4.5 years. But from that is going to also generate the additional revenue. We'll continue to take care of all the other needs that we have for years to come. And that's one of the things we're really looking at. I'm excited when, for the first time in my life, that we really have a true opportunity to be able to put Pueblo West and the city of Pueblo together with 24th Street going through. And I think as that does, you'll begin to see that the core that's going to be developed is going to be that core right there, because it's difficult as you start going to the east. I mean, I guess I applaud Richmond for doing what they're doing over by the CSU Pueblo. And if you have had an opportunity to be over there with them digging a hole that's basically 12 feet deep and recompacting that dirt, that's not cheap. But they're being able to do it, and they're a high volume builder. And if I think the rest of the folks are beginning to look at Pueblo, we'll be able to see Pueblo become the city that really should be, because we have so much disconnection of just streets that have started. And I understand, being a former developer, I get it, I understand it. And I know why. I know the history of Pueblo too, because I've grown up here my entire adult life. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is it gives us an opportunity for the first time to really get this city, on a stage where it continue to grow. Because one of the things that we have that other cities don't have, and this is a hidden secret, and we all know what it is. We have water. They don't. Fountain right now, if you're gonna come in a new foundation or a new community and fountain, you're gonna bring water. If you're gonna go up to Fort Collins and stuff like that, you got to go buy water. And the people you're buying the water from is the farmers and stuff like that, and they're not willing to let up water. We're fortunate that the capacity we have our Board of Waterworks has done a wonderful job. And I think really we owe that to General Palmer and John Osgood for when they started CF&I, because one of the reasons they bought CF&I here is because of the confluence of all the rivers and the resources that we had. So I think it gives us a tremendous opportunity to be able to do it. I know one of the questions that I have, for Mayor Gradishar, because I was on the phone today with Senator Garcia on a couple other things that are coming down, because my CEO got elected to a committee to help study the compensation for teachers across the, or especially in Colorado, but also across the United States. And one of the things that we were talking a little bit about is, infrastructure. I mean, I don't know if we ever really got from, we were supposed to get in July or August, what is the definition of infrastructure? I mean, I know what I think the definition of infrastructure is, because I've been putting infrastructure in all my life. But the definition of what is the federal government apply that to, I didn't know if we actually got an answer on that, Mayor Gradishar, or not. I didn't think we did, because I know Leroy said the same thing, that they hadn't got a direction from the state yet. So I figured you hadn't got it either. But even without that, as Ashley said, is if we can get a contribution, on the water sewer side, because to be able to expand that and provide connectivity, because even the water that we have, typically if you look at the water pressure on the south side, we can, and the reason I know this is because we just put in 2 softball fields on our own, and we can only go up to 35 gallons per minute. But yet the pressure that I have, when I go by the parks of El Camino and over in Regency, they have a heck of a lot more pressure. Do we have to manage water? Yes, we do. And I appreciate that, but I would just love for the entire west side to have the same opportunity for connectivity in roads and infrastructure. If you've had an opportunity to be able to look at the infrastructure over here, you'll see, water goes this way, gas goes this way, and it's not all connected simply because it's relied on the backs of developers and builders to be able to build that infrastructure. And I think if, one of the tenets that we did, and even with our softball field, and you recently saw the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And I think they're coming now, whether we want them to come or not. And I know, in the past, I got the kind of the sense that the city never really wanted to grow. And this was in my early years, clear back when I was at CF&I. And I really feel that some of the city forefathers didn't want the city to grow for whatever reason. But I think one of the neat things about it is we have to be a vibrant community. And we have an awful lot of special things that the rest of the state can't even mix. I just came from Chicago and went to some of the areas there, and they have the same thing. They have things that, so I think the beauty of this type of mixed use, because we're looking at doing the same thing. We got real loaded product that we've got that I had the opportunity to build up in Brighton, Colorado, that I think will be able to serve needs, we've got apartments going in, so we get apartments, so, somebody can get an apartment if they want to, and then get that opportunity to be able to go into I would love to raise our ownership because we have a pretty high ownership as well as in Pueblo, but I'd love to see that be much higher.
You good?
Yeah, so with that being said, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to present. I know this is our third time coming back to you, but we wanted to share it. We've been fortunate that Ashley and I kind of locked arms and said, hey, let's just do it for the entire west side. Instead of even the lower west side, northwest side, let's just get together and see if we can make this happen as an opportunity to be able to have, it'd be nice to be able to come back 20 years from now and see that Pueblo is really just, or if I'm still here, I don't know if I'll be alive in 20 years.
Mayor
to be able to
Grasher?
see it go. But thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want to add, we're committed to the extension of 18th Street there, that 2-block section of 18th Street. As soon as the plans are there, we're gonna move forward on that. We're gonna find the money somewhere to do that. The other thing I want to announce, maybe you know, maybe you don't, 24th Street reopened over the weekend. So it's been closed nearly all summer, but and you know what the story was there. We planned to overlay it. When they started overlaying, milling it, it had to be rebuilt. So it cost us 3 times as much, but it's open and it's a nice road. I was on it this weekend. So
Yeah, Dr. Duran really thanks you, Mayor Grasher, because he didn't have to go all the way around to get to school today. So
yeah, I think everybody's happy that that's the case. So
Counselor Flores?
I was interested in whether you've concluded or decision has been made on the drainage pond we were talking about. It was going to go into land that the city owned. Where do we stand on that?
So NeighborWorks actually was able to acquisition some additional private property. And so our engineers are going through this week and finalizing what that plan will be. And then we'll be presenting that to get that written up.
Did we lose any housing in the process?
We did not.
Oh, great.
And we were able to, as part of this engineering, we looked at the same study for us on the below 24th Street, and we were able to ensure that we have a detention pond kind of to the south of the community. That as it builds that way, we'll be able to utilize that. But we have right at the end of, I can't remember the street, but it's right next to Spalding. And then we also had an inlet that was, so we actually had 2 different ways that we could actually drive the storm sewer on our side as well. And so that'll be part of our plan too, that we bring it on, or hopefully on Monday, I'll be able to give it to Andy.
one of the problems we discovered with the city property being used is there was a sanitary sewer on a portion of that property, and apparently you can't put a detention pond over a sanitary sewer line. So
That makes sense.
So we will likely use a portion of it still, but we actually were able to acquisition some additional private land. So we will be able to do that offsite and not have that. And we'll be able to get close enough where that we can tie into that actual trail system there too, which would be phenomenal.
You didn't mention it, but one of the concerns and one of the things that the west side lacks is another fire station.
Correct.
That would be able to help those 600. And I think you should point out that that's one of the plans that you have established of having a new fire station right on the corner of 24th and Pueblo Boulevard. Is that, or not 24th?
It is 24th, and essentially where Perry comes through. If you look at your land use summary page, it is the brown piece at that southwestern corner. And we are looking at donating that land to the city of Pueblo for Fire Station 11.
Yeah, and we're excited about that. I mean, one of the things that as I was reviewing it with Dr. Duran and one of our board members that sits on our facilities committee, they're very excited about that because one of the things, Mayor Grasher, that's what we were really looking for, because the thing we struggle with right now is getting a fire or first responders to the site. Because if you're coming from the north side and they can't, as they have told me, they will not come down and go across 11th Street. And so at least now, they can go down 24th Street, but they still got to reroute, come all the way around. And we were excited about that. When I saw that on Ashley's thing, I said, all right, that'd be perfect because they'll be right down the street from us.
My last question has to do with how is the county involved in this project? As you know, property tax, that goes to the county. We get a little bit of it, but not much. But tell me how they're involved in this project.
So we're continuing to keep them in the loop. One of the things that we are forming is a metro district to help maintain the open spaces. That will actually be some of our next presentations to the county folks, being that we're going to be generating considerable amount of property tax revenue, what their contribution to the project will look like. And both the city and the county contributing to this project is essential in us raising additional funds to create affordable housing. There's a matching piece that our municipalities have to participate in for us to be able to raise the funds needed to really make a huge impact in that affordability piece.
Thank you for answering my questions. I think you guys have done a terrific job in, laying everything out, all of the variables that go into building a development this big. So I applaud you for that.
Counselor Schilling.
Well, a big yahoo on the whole project, but the $7 million in revenue, is that property tax revenue? Is that what you're talking about?
It's a mix of property tax and sales tax. And I've got a support document, Bob, that we were able to generate. One of the that we went through this morning. My partner came down from Denver and we went through that. I was in Chicago unexpectedly and didn't get a chance.
You know what the sales tax part would be?
Yes, and this is actually based on actually taking the reduced amount, because what we initially did when I spoke with Andy Hayes a little bit about it, we thought that number was inflated. Okay. So we went back and actually looked, because that is in an opportunity zone, so some of the taxes are actually reduced. And so this is it based off of the actual taxes. Went down and visited with Dale Olivas to figure out what the taxes were for each one of those.
Hang on, Jack. All I'm asking is, of 7 million, what percent do you think is sales tax?
Roughly about almost 89% of that is
90%, 89%?
in real estate, yes.
Okay.
The rest of it is sales tax. Pardon me?
Wait a minute.
It's 89% in real estate taxes.
Okay, 11% sales tax.
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned Metro District. So are they going to create fees to pay for the street improvements, for the fire station, that sort of thing? You'll have a mill levy when you buy a house over there or something?
Yes, you will.
Okay.
We applied for that. Yep.
Thanks.
Counselor Tencio.
Yeah, I like the idea of affordable housing, the whole thing. 4.5 million, you want that from ARPA?
Well, we would, for us, since we're a little bit further ahead than Ashley is, we're ready to start right now. We have a developer from South Carolina. It's built in 29 different states. They're ready to go. They're ready to gear up, utilize much as local services as they can, but they're ready to go. Our biggest thing that we've talked to them is about, which Mayor Gradishar is helping us with, is 18th Street. But if we could use it for through the ARPA funds, if we get into through the community development block grant funds, that's a little bit more of an extended area. And really the one thing that I fear, because I've been a developer all of my life and I've been through 3 or 4 different cycles of building, the window of opportunity is here today, but when is the window of opportunity going to close? It may not close for Pueblo for 3 to 5 years, who knows, but it could close. And I've been in Pueblo when I was building 100 homes, and the very next year I built probably 10 in Pueblo. So I've gone through that cycle, and I don't want to see that cycle hit us.
Yeah. Well, the concern I have is, how many other developers do we pay for their sewer and water infrastructure?
Well,
I don't know that we do zero.
Well, whether we do or we don't, I agree with that.
I understand that we're going to get paid back on sales tax and property tax. We only get 1%, isn't it? From
17.
17.
Don't we get 17% of the
17
from the
The
county?
mill levy is 17.
Oh, mill levy.
I don't know what the percentage is.
I think our income is only like 1% or something.
15. So we get 15 mills.
15
I don't know
mils.
what, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, my point is that I really have a problem with that, setting a precedent by which the city is paying for the infrastructure needs of a developer.
I appreciate
If we do it for you, I understand that but yours is low income. How much of yours is going to be
60%.
low income? Well, 60%, that's fine and good, but 40% of 400 homes is 160 homes. Those are going to be full price. You're going to make a lot of money on 160 homes. And I understand that because of the tax, we're going to be getting the money back, but not really.
Well, let me
Because
give you.
let me talk. If you decide, if you don't get the help from the city and you decide to build anyway, you're still going to make a hell of a profit on those 160, first of all, not to mention the profits you're going to make off of the affordable side. And we're still going to get some of the property tax. So it's advantageous for you to, I mean, I hate to be this way, but I'm sorry, but that's the fact. We got another side of town, which I represent, which is getting absolutely nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing, you know? So, and I'm all for it. I want affordable housing and I want the west side to be built up and I yada, 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 the whole thing. I'm 100%. The problem is 4.5 million could be spent. Give me 2.5 million of it, and I might be happier to do. My question is,
Yes.
since you're doing an improved metro district, improvement district, why can't you do an improvement district? And then that way, when that extra 4.5 million could be spent other than subsidizing a developer.
Okay, let me just address it in this way. I would agree with you that developers have done it in the past, but we also get what we got. We have a fragmented city, and this is just being frank. We have a very fragmented city that we have developments that start, stop, simply because of you can see when the whims of real estate and the trends go. And we always lead and lag, especially in Pueblo.
Sure.
But one of the things that the city, we're asking for a collaboration of the city. The city of Fort Morgan right now, is they're putting the infrastructure in for 600 homes because they finally have attracted a large employer there to be able. And this is, if you've been up on clear up on the north eastern side of the state, that's pretty flight up there. And so they're doing it. But when you're seeing right now across the United States, a lot of the stuff that's happening because you've got developers, huge like Richmond and stuff. Richmond's it's a public owned company. That means they buy shares. They deal with Wall Street. We're talking about private folks that really are not that so we don't generate additional revenue or play the market game to get additional capital. We're looking at it this way. I would say yes, that in the past we haven't done it with developers, but I also can give you an example that those that did, especially like the city of Tucson. The city of Tucson was here in 1987, 1986, when all of the same thing happened to them. Their big industries, if you remember, their big industries were copper. Their big industries went in the tube and they were done. And so they did the same thing. The city of Tucson got together with all the stuff. That's why if you look at the school district, it's called the Unified School District down there. They did exactly the same thing. They went in and I happen to be working with a gentleman from the University of Colorado at an elite school of business doing this. But it's a model that is very unique to Pueblo, but it's not unique across the United States. And Mr. Atencio, I would agree with you that but there has been more stuff gone on the east side of town in my 40 years that I've lived here than there ever has been on the west side. The west side has been forgotten.
Thank you. Thank you. It was, I'll take the credit for those, okay? I put over $10 million worth of projects into the east side, but my point is that we didn't literally ask the other side of town to pay for it. Just saying. And then I guess my last question is, does new development infrastructure fit under the guidelines of ARPA? In other words, a new development, can we put ARPA money into that? I thought ARPA money in terms of water and sewer was to fix the things that we have out there that need fixing, not a brand new development that needs water and sewer, and therefore we're going to use ARPA money to do it. Just asking.
Well, we're still awaiting the final regulations, but I think water and sewer infrastructure projects are covered by ARPA. Now, whether that, and certainly devoting funds to affordable housing is covered by ARPA, but that's, affordable housing is a term of art. And I think NeighborWorks is truly affordable housing where you have that shared equity kind of thing and the price always remains low there.
Yeah, I'm all in.
Versus housing that's cheaper for the developer to build, but not necessarily more affordable to the purchaser. So I think we have to work through some of those issues.
Yeah, I think President Atencio, just to really answer part of the question, because our attorneys looked into this as well. And I had an opportunity to visit with the folks up at Fort Morgan. Fort Morgan that's exactly what they're using. They're using their ARPA funds to be able to put the sewer and water infrastructure in. In addition to since they've been severely impacted by COVID, they're also using a portion of that.
It just doesn't sound right to put ARPA money into a new development for infrastructure. It just doesn't sound right to me. It's just me. Okay, I'm done.
I think as you, if I don't know why we even discuss, if you invest $9 million and you can build 654 homes, which will bring in $7 million a year just in tax. But what does it do for the school districts? What does it do for employment? What does it do for businesses? What does it do? I mean, it has such an effect on a community when you add that level of housing, whether it's 60% affordable, 70% affordable, whatever. If you bring in that kind of infrastructure and that kind of economic development into the community, it has an enormous effect on the community to the good. And we have this one-time windfall of cash that specifically addresses what needs to be done in that development when it comes to sewer and to stormwater. And to me, it doesn't make any sense how we wouldn't invest in that to bring in that kind of economic development into our community. I mean, we spend millions over the last 10 years on speculation on jobs with different companies and which really put in no specific housing or brought in the level of commitment to the community that you guys are bringing in. And it just, to me, this meets every definition of what ARP is about. And I don't know so much about your program, Ashley, how that fits in. I know that Mr. Bay's specific ask was for sewer infrastructure and water and stormwater infrastructure, and that makes sense. And I think we're getting another presentation later tonight where we're looking at a $2 million investment in another, but it isn't housing. It's building a shopping center or something. I don't know for sure, but this is. I don't know how this isn't a no-brainer of us investing in this and making it happen. 654 homes and the enormous economic development. We've always sat up here and said, or at least I've always said, the very foundation of economic development in a community is your residential development. If you're going to succeed as a community, you have to have residential and commercial development. And they just go hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other. So it's very important that we take this seriously. Councilor Winter.
Well, like I've said several times in meetings, Colorado is expected to double its population within the next 15 to 20 years. So they're coming whether we like it or not, and we have to be prepared for that. Larry, I think we could probably look into Petco funds for this as well. I mean, we could. And Nick, you said something that I just didn't understand. If you could repeat that. You said cheaper to build, but not necessarily to buy and balance with. I missed that, just went right over my head. Can you say that again?
Well, yeah, in a truly affordable housing project like Neighborhoods is building, price is kind of low, so that people of limited means can afford it. Always kept it. Other developers, it might be cheaper for the builder to build, but they're going to be sold and then turned over, and there's no limits on price that those houses can be sold for. So when you're talking about investing public funds, if you're concerned about affordable housing, you probably want to put covenants and things like that on it so that there are limits about how often or how much can be made when that home transfers.
Yes, what we're going to actually, we'll be building over a 3-year period. And then when you look at with Ashley, when she starts up, she'll be, well, we'll probably be at the same time, Ashley, when we really get going. But ours, we're going to ramp up and basically, we already have identified somebody for, to build an apartment complex, and also to even do the stuff where we have the rent to own, because that's, like I said, Ms. Winter, it's really evolved. That being a former builder, I would have loved to have seen this years ago, because especially for communities like Pueblo and that really are in need for people, because the one thing that we find out that they don't have is they don't have, typically they can't, a lot of times they can't qualify for an FHA loan, or they don't have the down payment to, they can't go for a conventional loan by all means. So it gives them an opportunity to, through equity and things that we want them to do anyway. We want them to have ownership. We want to have skin in the game, to them to be able to buy product as well. I think that's the beauty of it. And one of the things that I've learned that, all housing, whether it's, I don't like all housing the same. I have a friend of mine who lives in a community called Terra Vita down in Arizona. And I think they built 3,500 homes in less than 2 years. And they all look, I mean, if you happen to miss the block that you're on, you're going to be on, you can go to the same house, probably on your block around. This is a mix of the product, and that's what's neat about it. We're doing the same thing. We're looking at it. And this was all because of a discussion we had with Brian Gallagher about, can you change up the product mix? And we said, sure, we don't really care what the product mix is. We just really want to buy some, to build some product. But I think it's a unique way to give somebody an opportunity to go. And I love what Ashley's doing. I mean, fortunately, and Ashley, we'll have our 32-foot net up so we don't hit your houses with softballs. One of the things we're really trying to do is make sure that we have a mix of all that, because I think that's one of the things that Pueblo has. Pueblo has a very unique thing where everybody's all kind of mixed together, whether you have Pueblo West or you have the city of Pueblo. And so we're trying to put, various products in there.
But if I can interject, Jack, our affordable housing will have 99-year deed restrictions on them. So every time the home is sold, it'll be put into affordability for another 99-year period. So it will be affordable in perpetuity. This would be a contribution to the city where this housing would be affordable basically forever. And it is a step in the ladder that currently Pueblo does not have as far as housing goes. So the 5-year period or the 10-year period, which can come out of HUD or DOH money or city money, does expire. And once it does, folks can sell at market rate and collect what equity is in the home. This puts another rung in the home ownership ladder where somebody can move out of maybe subsidized housing or rental housing into this type of housing, and then hopefully eventually into market rate housing in our community.
Yeah, because I think the purpose that we look at is really for them to be able to provide. I appreciate trying to keep it into a subsidized way, but I think if you really, when I look at it, when I look at really what's happened in New York and in some other cities, that becomes, especially in Baltimore, it becomes a perpetual revolving thing. We really want it to be able to, them be able to do that, but then as they grow and they get additional equity, to be able to then take that equity and grow into, a regular single family home. And even at that point in time, get into an opportunity that may have another chance to do something to help their, this is an opportunity for us really to help those that are coming after we've came. And that's really what we like about it the same way. We want to be able to provide where, we can give back to the city, but allow the city to grow at the same time.
Councilor Flores.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Number one, NeighborWorks, you're a nonprofit organization. You have no stockholders.
Correct.
If you do make a profit, what do you do with that profit?
It goes back into programming in our community. So whether that be mortgage subsidy or additional staff doing community development type of projects, but it all gets put back into the community.
The last two comments I have, one, ARPA is a short-lived program, so that this does not set a precedence. Everybody had an opportunity to do their homework like you did. And so I don't think we penalize you because we're not building a development someplace else where no homework was done and we have nobody presenting anything to us. So I just wanted to be sure that we were clear on that this is not going to set a precedence. This is a one-time donation by the federal government. And this was a short-lived project in a short period of time in the history of Pueblo. So I wanted to be clear about that. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, if I could comment
Councilor
on it.
Tencio.
Okay, now NeighborWorks is not asking for ARPA money. for infrastructure?
We did ask for ARPA money, and the ask is actually included in your packet. We weren't clear when we did the ask, just as Jack wasn't, as to what infrastructure was going to be defined by the government. And so we were asking for water and sewer in the design of Spalding Avenue, the opportunity to create innovative stormwater facilities, and to extend the Wild Horse Creek open space trail network system. So it was those three pieces, which is why our ask is a little bit more, but we actually have almost double the amount of housing coming in.
How much is that?
We have a total of 604 housing units.
No, I mean, how much are you asking for?
5 million.
So you're asking for 9 million out of the ARPA money
Between the two of us.
between the two of you, and we're getting 18 million this year?
We're getting 36 over 2 years.
If we get the next 18.
If I could, Dennis, you brought up a very good point. One of the things that I'd be willing to incorporate in ours as well. We actually did this up in the Falcon area, the Peyton area. When I started building up there, started a program where for every home that we closed, and this including resale homes too, any home that actually closed, we actually get $1,500. We actually put it into a program. In this case, we actually did a building for classrooms, because when I started building up there, they really didn't have any classrooms. And when I started at Falcon School District, they were the fastest growing, and still are the fastest growing school district in the state. And so what we were able to do is take those funds and earmark those funds. So what we started out some 20 some years ago, now they're generating almost $9 million a year in additional funding as a result of new homes and the closed homes that get resold.
You said that you were going to do, get $7 million a year in
Real
property
estate,
taxes?
yeah, real estate and property taxes. Yes.
Property taxes, how much of that, can we find out how much of that is going to go to the city?
That's what's going to go to, that's what's going to the city directly. We didn't, the county stuff is, we left the county stuff out of there. There's
How
a
much
very-
is the county getting?
There's a very small portion that get just a 1% county and on ours, because we're not, ours. is-
No, the county gets the majority of the property taxes. The city gets very little.
But you're still collecting 15 mils, which is a considerable amount of money.
So the hope is to then also bring in more services. And as NeighborWorks has said, we are putting together a metro district, which will pay for all of the open spaces, which will include public park facilities, access to the trail systems, maintenance of the trail systems, maintenance of our detention center, which will be offsite, which will include some maintenance of actual city property, and the donation of the property and the infrastructure for the fire station.
I'm not arguing that all the benefits and everything that you're doing. I'm all in on that. I'm just asking, there are people out there that might ask the same questions that I'm asking, and they happen to be constituents of the city, and they have a dog in this fight because it's their money, not mine, not the federal government's. It's in our bank account, and now it belongs to the citizens of Pueblo. I'm only asking. I'm all in on the parks and the fire station and yada yada, the whole thing. And I want affordable housing, and I'm all in on the 99 years. I'm all in on the rent to own. I'm with you. I'll fight to the death for you on that one. I'm just saying, why can't you do an improvement district like they're doing?
Well, we would love to, but we just don't have the same infrastructure. I think if I can make one comment, just one last comment from our standpoint. Keep in mind, keep in mind, one of the things that I see is that this is one-time money that was created because of a very significant hardship that created across the entire United States. With the ARPA funds is to allow the city to be able to recover, from that. And I think, so in essence, these are one-time dollars that we're not asking in a typical setting that we're asking for funding. We're asking in this case to be able to put the city in a situation where it can, pick up its boots and get running faster than normal. Is a one-time infusion in real estate investment through sewer and water extensions and a few other things, if they can do that, to be able to provide product that is affordable. Because you look at, I was surprised and I didn't get an opportunity to visit with Mr. Flores last week, but there were 66 homes sold in the Crestview area in less than, did you happen to see what the average price was? Yeah. $332,000. I feel for the kids that have to, be able to qualify for that. Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I want to.
All right. I'm sorry. But.
Councilor Pacheco.
Thank you all for your presentation. I'm all in for affordable housing. And I do have to say, I think it's time that we show the West Side some love. And so you guys have brought together some great points, and I think you really thought through it. I love the 99 years and that it'll continue to be affordable housing. And I think that it's time that we help our citizens thrive instead of survive. So yes, excited for you.
Councilor Schilling.
Thank you. I'm going to hook up to what Larry said. Well, first, what Mark said, that this is a one-time big cash infusion. And it is just one time, and the maintenance of all those neighborhoods is going to go on for eternity. So you guys are doing a metro district. Why don't you want to do a metro district?
I've got some ideas that I can share with her how we may be able to incorporate part of that.
You know, coming from planning and zoning, you guys, it's great. The city's building all over the place. But remember, everybody that's here is going to have to pay for it. And El Camino has a little mill levy, and they take care of their own things. And that needs to be a trend in this city, or all these developments are going to bankrupt it. So I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I'm 100% for having that metro district pay for itself. That's all I got. Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
We'll move on to number 3, which is the ARPA projects introduction. Mayor Gradizar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. This is the work session that you asked for with respect to the ARPA funding requests that will come before council on the 13th of September. I think at the last meeting, we indicated that we're prepared to make recommendations. As you know, the process we set up 7 pillars and community groups in each of those pillars to evaluate proposals that came in from individuals or organizations that had projects they wanted to consider for ARPA funding. This process remains open until, I think, Laura, the 15th of October. Is that the cut? 1st of October? October the 1st. So a question arose earlier before the meeting started about, is there still time to submit proposals? And there is. The answer to that is there is for this year. That's October the 1st. You know, we're planning on, well, I shouldn't say we're planning on. We anticipate that there'll be another $18 million coming next year. Now, things are still in flux, I think, in Washington, D.C. with this infrastructure bill. And I think there's still some talk that some of these ARPA funds might be used to fund that infrastructure bill. And if that's the case, you know, they might try to rake back that second half. So what we're working on is we've got $18.2 million that we've got in the bank. That's what we're planning on spending. And we're not planning on spending the other 18 million at this point. If we get that money in the bank next year because everything falls into place, then obviously we'll open that up again for additional proposals and work through that process, work through this process again. But tonight you're going to hear presentations. Daryl, you want to put the from I think 10 agencies that we have are recommending in this order. I think the total amount of the request that we're recommending is $1.287 million. And so we'll go through these one at a time. You'll see here that it's a wide range of things. Some have, some organizations put multiple requests in. And as they came through this evaluation process with the members of the public and these pillars that evaluated them, they made recommendations to the mayor's office. And these are the ones that we selected and said, these are ready to go now. We want to get this money in the community and get these projects started as quickly as possible. We don't want to sit back and wait until we have all $18 million spent before we send any of it out, because you'll see that some of these projects are for things that are needed now. You know, one of the things you'll see is health solutions. We're going to really increase the behavioral health specialists that ride with police officers to the tune of a 2-year program for $360,000 and try to address some of those mental health problems that are not really criminal problems, but try to make a dent in some things there. you'll see that there's a program to expand the number of childcare facilities that are available in Pueblo County. That's a big problem as people go back to work or want to go back to work. What are they going to do with the kids? Especially if, you know, classes are going to be intermittent and those kind of things. So a large sum of money for a 2-year program for Colorado Legal Services with respect to trying to help people who are in the process of being evicted, either because they're having trouble paying their rent or their mortgage. They'll sort of direct people to assets that are available to help them with those programs and other things. So that, I think, is the end of that presentation. Okay, here. Okay, yeah. And these are the two, these are two that we're going to hear from that didn't come through the community process. These came right from the mayor's office, from the infrastructure part. One of them is for Southern Colorado Economic Development District. They represent 13 counties. You're going to hear a presentation from them. They're asking for $367,000 from the city of Pueblo. They're asking for a similar amount from the county of Pueblo. And Eric Kubelman's here, who will talk about that. We're still working through whether or not that's an appropriate use of ARPA funds. We haven't made that determination yet, but we're working through that process at this time. But I think it's important to look there because one of the things that you can use ARPA money for is for broadband infrastructure. And one of the problems and what I think Skid is trying to address is, you know, where are we at in broadband infrastructure? What's the situation in Pueblo County in broadband? What's the situation in the 13 counties? Part of what they're proposing is bringing an expert on who can identify that inventory and those kind of things and sort of develop a plan for broadband. So I personally think that's worth studying, worth investigating. The other one is one that was mentioned briefly here. This is the city of Pueblo wastewater. This is a public sewer system on the west side that will significantly improve the ability of future annexations to take place north of Highway 50. As things stand right now, under our code of ordinances, for annexations north of Highway 50 to take place, those annexers would be required to install $2 million worth of sewer infrastructure, not on their facility for their own services, but for the city in order to be able to service them. You'll hear how it came to be that way, but one of the things was we didn't require the YMCA to put in the sewer system they were required to put in. And as a result of that, there's this lag that I don't think it's fair to say to developers north of Highway 50, you have to put that in before you can have a development. So this is a public sewer system that's being put in to serve those annexations and other businesses along the west side. So that's one that you'll hear from that we're recommending be funded out of the ARPA dollars, is that public sewer system that will facilitate those annexations and businesses on the west side. But I don't want to take any more time. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor.
So let's jump right into
We'll
the
start with
presentations.
number 4 on the agenda, which is the Pueblo Cooperative Care. Ms. Riffle and Ms. Ferguson. Just
That's what this is. So,
you're good. You're good. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much for having us. Normally Corey Higby, the executive director, is here, but he had a previous engagement, and so he wanted to send his regrets. But thank you very much for inviting us, and thank you for considering our proposal. We actually have 3 proposals in. Go ahead, sorry. Well, I was trying to make eye contact, but there's a little robot thing there. Okay, so we're with Pueblo Cooperative Care Center, and most of you know about Pueblo Cooperative Care Center. The packets that you received is reading on your own, of course, just like everyone will give you big packets of material today. Let's see here. The projects that we're highlighting and that we put in for funding are our Food Sack and Now project, the Kid Sack project, and then infrastructure. So I'm going to go ahead and do all three, even though we're listed as three separate on your agenda. And I'm going to leave our slide of the 2019 to 2020 comparison, just because our numbers are so significant. We put in this due to COVID because of the massive increase in numbers. So our Food Sack and Now project has grown tremendously. And it's important to note our Food Sack, although we have a central location for delivering the food sacks to the community in need, we started the Now project, which is Nutrition on Wheels. And we do the food delivery to our seniors and disabled individuals and those who are homebound in our community. We started the project because we found out that people were not able to make their way to our center to receive food support. And we initially developed the program, and we thought we would have 150 people enrolled in the first year. So 12 months of service, 150 people, where we would deliver 2 times a month to these individuals. With the arrival of COVID, it immediately jumped. And at the end of 2020, we have an enrollment of 900 people. And so each month it grew incrementally, and that's been one of our major programs. This program also, we work with the DOTS program with the fire department, working with those high users of 911. And in many cases, when they go to the houses, when they make emergency calls, and those people won't have any food in their homes. And our Now drivers will go and deliver food even before those emergency responders will leave the place, their homes. So we've really been able to fill a niche there. We're asking for $169,844,000 for our Food Sack and Now program. And you can see in our program, for that, we served over, well, the number's not on that one. We served over 64,000 services in 2020, and we anticipate doing at least that many in 2021, maybe more. We also asked for 36,690 in the Kid Sack program, and we serve 6,000 kids throughout the community of Pueblo. So what we do is we make kid sacks with food sacks, and we deliver them we work with Boys and Girls Club, the City County Library, and the other child care services, Eastside Child Care, and several other kid serving entities where we make up the food sacks, and then they come and get them and distribute those food sacks to their children. And then the infrastructure development, we've asked for 23,728, and that's to improve our inventory controls and also our computer systems throughout. As you can imagine, with all of this growth, our computer systems and softwares have been taxed, and where we could use maybe spreadsheets and things like that to keep track of people over the last several years, now we're really needing to move to the next level with our inventory controls and our client management. And I was going to have, this is Kathy Ferguson. She's the director of the Now program. I was going to have her share just a few stories of the Now clients. And I'm highlighting the Now program just because I think it's common knowledge the food insecurity and the need for food resources in our community. But But our unique niche is not only do we do the food sacks where people come and pick up the food, but our Now program that delivers to those seniors has just filled such a vital need throughout our community in all of the 4 quadrants. And it's just, the stories would just break your heart. So I'm going to let Kathy just share a few stories with you.
Well, one of the key stories, and thank you so much for having us, but one that is really touching the Now participants, that when the DOTS program called and said they had a participant that they found outside of the home. So when they got a call, they went inside the home with the participant. The person had no running water, no heat. It's already winter, and they had no food in their cupboards. So by the end of the day, by the time they were done, they had already reached out to the resources within the community. They were getting the heat back on. They were getting people out there to get the water, and we had service there to get food already in the home. And we then later returned and we had welfare checks, because we not only bring food, we're also doing welfare checks on the family. And we found that that person was really not able to stay at the home. So we then will then call the DOTS program. They'll come back out, and they have now placed that person into a nursing home, so they are taken care of. So it goes both ways. We're able to build a great relationship to work together, and we're able to also reach out to our produce, the local farmers, and we have brought Gaglianos and Musos. Oh, there's so many great local produce that we have brought to them. And they have said that this, for the first time, they feel like part of Pueblo, because we're bringing them birthday cakes from local bakeries. And they don't get people that ever come to visit. We are the only people they see for the first time, maybe in 2 weeks. And they go without anybody. So we had a client that called and said he had his first birthday cake for the first one in 50 years. And that'll touch your heart. So we thank Pueblo and we thank the mayor for supporting us. We have the city people that go around and clean up all the, what do I want to say? Sorry.
The yards?
No, the vandalism.
Oh.
Yeah, the graffiti team. Thank you very much. So they go around and clean up the graffiti. Well, they have come during COVID when they were down on time, and they would come and they would help us deliver. So that was another great partnership that we've been able to put together with the team. So thank you.
Right. And we have many of those different partnerships. The area agency on aging, we partner with them and we help them with the registration process. And when we find out that the senior has, maybe they need lawn care or they need appointments or just the broad spectrum of things that elderly people who have no support system, they may need, we bridge that gap. And then Kathy and her team call twice a month to just preface the delivery, but they also do those well checks. And they just make sure that the individuals in our community have what they need to be successful.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Questions, comments? Anybody? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
We'll go on to number 5, which is Health Solutions, Ms. Russell and Mr. Boldridge. Crestone Recovery. Hey, it's great to see you two.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Jessica Russell. I'm the Director of Crestone Recovery at Health Solutions. And this is Richard Baldridge. He's one of our supervisors here. And we're here to talk to you guys about our CIT program, which embeds clinicians and master's level behavioral health experts in the Pueblo Police Department. Health Solutions has been a part of the Pueblo County areas for over 50 years. One of our biggest missions is providing whole person care and recognizing that mental health and behavioral health treatment is not just about a come into the office and we'll talk about it process, but actually recognizing that we have to help people on every aspect. So it's exciting to hear about housing and food because these are all aspects for people to really create recovery. We started our CIT program in February of 2017 when we had 2 clinicians start riding with police officers in the Pueblo Police Department. They were both working 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week each, so it's covering 6 days. They were working noon to midnight. Those hours were selected because PD was looking at data on their most frequent behavioral health calls and their need for behavioral health support, and really trying to align those hours with the clinician schedules. The program initially started through the vision of Chief Velez, who said we need something different because we have police officers just driving people struggling with mental health and substance use disorders around the city for hours on end with no real solution other than just keep driving them so they stay out of everybody's way. And it was implemented with Chief Davenport, who continued with that process, and we were able to receive grant funding from the state to start the program initially. A year after, we expanded the program to include a 3rd clinician who works overnights. As you guys might imagine, graveyard shift is a very active shift when it comes to behavioral health issues that are going on. And so we embedded a clinician to work overnight. We also expanded the program to include a case manager. Case manager's role is really to provide that additional support. There are a lot of individuals we found as we started this program who contact the police department and first responders sometimes because they just don't know where to start. And we're all indoctrinated from very young ages to call 911 and somebody will come help us, right? And so the case manager is there to really help those individuals. Sometimes we had individuals who were just calling because 911 was their only support. And they were just calling to tell them, hey, I made lasagna tonight and I'm really excited about it. And obviously dispatch has done an amazing job of talking to those individuals. And that's not the best use of that resource to have dispatch clogged up with people calling to tell them about their lasagna. And so the case manager is there to provide connection and support and also connect them into resources throughout our community and really provide them that continued support. The goal of the program is to get people experiencing behavioral health crises to the right services. And unfortunately, throughout our country, we see a huge amount of individuals experiencing behavioral health issues incarcerated into our criminal justice system. And though we try very hard in the criminal justice system to provide appropriate behavioral health care, it's really not the appropriate place for those individuals to receive services. And so the CIT clinician's role is to get people connected with the right services and prevent an escalation that would require them to be incarcerated. Rick's going to talk a little bit about our statistics so far.
When you talk about appropriateness and the immediacy of service, that is what we have really found has been the benefit to the city of Pueblo and the police department. Since the start of the program, clinicians, master's level clinicians, contacted 1,928 persons in Pueblo. Of that, there was a 1% arrest rate. And to drill even further, normally that was because there was a warrant out for that individual, not because of the behaviors at that time. Program started to get larger, like Jess said about, we got a case manager. Initially, we had a part-time case manager. That case manager had 47 contacts, part-time. After that year, we had the full-time case manager from Crestone Recovery Services come over, 444 contacts with that case manager that saved that person from possibly going to jail, incarceration, or state services. 2018 was a banner year for that, 444. Since February 2017, clinicians and case managers have had a combined contact of 3,279 individuals. Over the last year, July 20 to June 2021, the clinicians had 543 contacts. Of these contacts, 4 were incarcerated. Again, 1 or less than 1 arrest rate when you have a CIT clinician on board with that officer. 141 contacts ended in connecting to services. 77 contacts were taken to the Parkview ER and 12 were taken to the St. Mary Corwin ER. 238 individuals were able to stay in their homes and connect with that CIT case manager and get connected to services in the community. When Chief Velez envisions a program, like Jess said, we had officers that were literally riding around the Pueblo community because that individual they weren't under arrest, they weren't having an arrestable offense. However, we did not know what to do with them. After CIT came on the scene, that rate was dropped down from literally an entire shift to 32.8 minutes on that contact, saving both the individual from further decompensating and saving those valuable tax dollars of the officer can go out and do what the officer was hired to actually do. In the last year, calls for CIT clinicians, it went up to 32.8, but it dropped down to 30. It went from 30 to 32.8. We're guessing because we had that additional clinician come on, and so we're able to serve more individuals. The slight increase over time, it's just what it is. The more we have contact with individuals, we're going to see that rate increase a little bit. However, 10 hours, that's a thing of the past. Thank you.
One of the things we noticed with the CIT program is as the clinicians were embedded in the police department, we initially started with a very specific definition of a behavioral health call, and that quickly expanded because police officers recognized that clinicians could be useful in a variety of experiences. So we started being asked to come to domestic violence calls because they were helpful for not only the individual who was maybe a victim of that experience, but also the individual who was feeling overwhelmed and lashing out and de-escalate that situation. They were also helpful in things like car accidents, talking to individuals and processing with them. Chief Knoller says about the CIT team, the CIT program is one of the programs that makes Pueblo's Police Department unique. Our partnership with Health Solutions in this program is a benefit to the citizens of Pueblo. The ability to have trained mental health clinicians in the vehicle with our officers allows us the ability to respond in ways never before possible when handling a mental health crisis. Our current capacity is good. However, increasing the number of CIT clinicians and vehicles and case management would help us provide this capability across more days of the week and hours of the day and allow the police department to remain on the cutting edge of the departments using the co-responder model. As a part of the ARPA funding, what we're looking to is expand the CIT program by another clinician and a case manager. That would hopefully get us to pretty close to 24/7 coverage with the clinicians and expand our hours for the case manager to provide additional support. One of the great things about the case manager is if a clinician is tied up on a call and another call comes through, the officers can reach out to the CIT case manager to follow up, to help with that situation, or even sometimes join them in those calls so that they can assist those individuals. And again, a big piece is helping people connect. We've talked a little bit about infrastructure and individuals tonight being able to get to services that they need. And a big piece of adding the additional case manager would add more capacity to help people, to walk them through the doors that they need to help them find those places. Because sometimes it's just hard when you're not familiar to walk through a door you're unsure of. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councilor Atencio.
No, I love the program. Everything about it. It's long overdue. We should have done this years and years ago. And I know it's successful, and I know a lot of people are not being jailed and they're getting the services that they need. I love that part. What has COVID done to you and the program? I think that's why we're here, is to hear from organizations that say, hey, COVID did this to my clients, and this is the reason we're asking for money. Not, I have a development that is going to be done 3 years from now, and I need you to pay for it. I'm sorry. But my point is that what did COVID affect your program and the constituents and everything about you? And that's why we're here. That's what I want to hear from everybody. Not you know, I understand you need more clinicians. I'm for it and everything, but because of COVID, you need more clinicians. And
so there's two major impacts that COVID has had on this program. First and foremost, I think everybody is aware that due to COVID, people have had more behavioral health crisis than they've ever experienced. I know personally people who are very high functioning individuals who are overwhelmed and distressed and are reaching out to law enforcement. Our rates of suicide in teens and adolescents has skyrocketed. So the demand is increased, which is a part of the impact of COVID. The other piece is because of the decreased funding throughout the state as far as revenue, funding for behavioral health services is often the first thing that kind of hits that chopping block when it comes to state funding. And so the state funding that we have used to continue this program has been significantly impacted.
Well, that's what I want to hear, because it's the American Rescue Plan. It's not the American, we're going to give you millions of dollars so you can make a lot of profit on your next development. That's not what it is. We're supposed to rescue people because of COVID. I may be wrong. Thank you.
Councilors,
Sorry, we can't
Councilor
do this
McCullough,
now.
but I can't.
I'll lift my eyebrows.
Give me a sign.
Thank you for all you do for our community. I absolutely agree with COVID. I think it has not only affected our bodies, but our mind and our souls. And so I truly appreciate your program. I think it's an asset to the community, especially with de-escalation when it comes to crisis. So thank you.
So I was a new city councilor a couple of years ago, and I had this great idea that I needed to ride with the police department. So it was a hot August night. It was a Friday night. And I think that Chief Davenport set me up on this. But let me tell you, the whole shift we were chasing armed robbers. It was crazy. It was nuts. But there was a time when we went to one of the local motels and there was a mental health crisis happening at this motel. And the officers that were on, the officer I was riding with consulted with some of the other officers, and they called in CIT. And within, I'd say 10 minutes, the CIT clinician was there and intervened in the crisis that was happening. And literally within 30 to 45 minutes, everything was under control and things went good. And we jumped in our car and we went and chased more bad guys. But, I got to see firsthand how that program works. And it was eye-opening, and it was something. I mean, as good as our officers are, they're not trained specifically to handle all those mental health crises. And it intrigued me so much. I looked into a program in Oregon where and I forget the name of it, but I know you know what I'm talking about, where they do it specifically. They're a standalone organization that works hand in hand with the police department. They get called out. Even they get dispatched before a police officer when the dispatcher knows that it's a mental health issue or something like that. So yeah, this is a great program and something that we should support at all costs. I mean, it's a great program. The only question I have, we could probably use a CIT clinician on city council. So if we get some funding, maybe we can have one of the clinicians on call to come see us. But anyway, any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate you. We'll move on to Rocky Mountain Sur, Brandy and Jan Miller. Hi.
Janice in disguise.
Jan, how are you? It's great to see you guys.
Thank you for having us. If we could get the PowerPoint. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I'm Lance Vieta. I'm not Jan Miller. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for RMSER, and this is Brandy Attica, and she's going to give you this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you for having us here today. So Rocky Mountain SER has been a 501c3 organization for the last 40 years here in the city of Pueblo and across Colorado. Currently, we are having 3 pillars of focus with our organization. One is for education, workforce development, as well as community development. Our newest project that we've been working on is Empowerment Center concept. It's a pilot program where we are going to have food as the beacon of our center and have a lot of ancillary services throughout the building. Some of those services are got to be wraparound services, kind of a one-stop shop. So people will be able to come into the school to get some food, and then we'll be able to provide other services. Part of our, gotta go to the next slide, sorry. There we go. So we're also have a migrant and seasonal farm workers program. We have been running that program for the last 40 years. We help farm workers get education, certification within CDL, nursing, welding, different things of that sort. We'll provide supportive services for them, such as tuition, housing, gas, things that they may need. So within our community center, we have been doing food distributions throughout the city of Pueblo. One is in our Summerlid location, that's on 2717 West Street. And our second one is in the east side at our former Span location at 2300 East 10th Street. We have been providing these services over the last year due to the COVID crisis that we have encountered. There has been a large amount of food insecure individuals and families here in Pueblo, and we came out to meet the need of those. We have been in various partnerships with a lot of organizations across town that we do provide the food services to after our food distributions. So we go to Child Advocacy Center, Boys and Girls Club, various churches and other businesses in town to be able to drop off these donations of food. We do try to provide healthy food options and not your typical commodity program items. We do partner with Pueblo Food Project as well as the Eastside Action Support Team, Care and Share, and various organizations to be able to offer this awesome opportunity for the Pueblo community.
So if you look at this map, it really is just kind of telling you anything that's in color there that you are in an area that has a lot of food deserts. As anybody that's here in the city and county of Pueblo, that there's a lot of places there. So if there's a color there, it's basically a food desert. And what we are asking for is the $25,000 investment to help us increase the need for the what is it, a freezer trailer, a mobile freezer trailer, so that we can help continue to do what we're already doing, but also add more capacity to the fleet that's already being used out there. We currently work with the Eastside Action but we have to use their trailer every single time that we do this, and this will allow us to do things simultaneously and increase our ability to help out the families that we're currently serving.
Yes, and to add to that, with a mobile freezer, we're going to be able to take the food safely to all of these different organizations and businesses, as well as our street outreach. We do mobile lunch sack program as well. So we go down to the camp areas and we go down and feed those who are in need. We also participate in helping various schools across town to provide them meal kits. And that means some of the schools are Pueblo School for Arts and Sciences, Bessemer, then like the Boys and Girls Club and all of the Head Start programs will provide some food for them. And so with the help of the mobile trailer, we're going to be able to give food access to a lot more individuals and actually have a longer shelf life for the food. And that includes the produce, the meats. We locally source our meats as well. Gagliano sausage, Martino cattle beef. We get Millburger Farm chili from the Pueblo Food Project. And so we want to be able to continue to help out individuals in our community with this asset. So we'll be in complete partnership moving forward. Here's some of our statistics for our food distributions. This is since January, and these numbers are actually dated to the end of June. So that's not, we have more added on, but there's 98 1,000 meals served. We served over 7,300 individuals, seniors, adults, and children. And we are close to 175,000 pounds of food that we distribute free of charge. We don't require any age, income verifications, ID, anything of the sort. People are able to come to our food distributions and get fresh foods free. There's no questions asked. Not unless they needed some extra services, we'll definitely refer out to our partners. We noticed within COVID, the workforce has definitely dropped down. So we've been reaching out to all of our local community partners such as WIC, SRDA, and different places like that to help spread the word for their organization as well within our food distributions. And thank you for your time, everybody. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just
yes.
point out that request was made for 3 of these refrigerated trailers, and the recommendation that came up was for 1. So the 28,000 is basically to fund
For
one.
one,
Yes.
but you need 3.
Yeah, we could definitely use, the one will get us in the right direction. And I think when it's all said and done, if we can have more, it's all about the storage and the ability to move the food in refrigeration. I mean, that's the biggest part of what we've got to do there. As we shoot for an October opening for our pantry at the old Seton Catholic High School, one of the things that we're going to set ourselves apart there is with the cold storage. And cold storage, both in a hard place and on the road, it helps us not only with the distribution directly to the constituency, but it also helps us be part of the infrastructure to help all of our partners here around town be able to have safe food.
Absolutely. Councilor McCauley-Bachicha.
So I had the pleasure of becoming familiar with this program prior to even being on council, and working with Brandy for my neighborhood, which is a food desert. She's helped out so much during COVID, help families get food, help children get food, the elderly. They've been able to even drop into my office and, pick up and fill out the forms with her. And so I really thank RMSCR for what they've done for my community. You guys are amazing, and it's healthy food. And that's what I truly appreciate. It's not just processed, because all we have are gas stations, and we have a dollar store, and now thankful for the rodeo, but thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, Councilman.
Yeah, I see it all the time, you, Derek, and all the volunteers that go out, and I mean, it's incredible how much you're out there and how much you do for the community. It's just, it's really inspirational to know that we have that kind of commitment within our community. So, keep it up. We appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to number 7, which is Children First. Angie Shehorn or Shehorn? Shehorn, I said it right the first time. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight. Paula is handing out a handout for you. And I've allowed you some places to take some notes. My name is Angie Shehorn, and I am Director of Children First Department at Pueblo Community College. We are a completely grant-funded department of the college, and we are everything early childhood. We work to support the system in Pueblo as well as Southern Colorado when it comes to all domains of early childhood. So the challenge that has been presented through COVID is the decrease in licensed providers or the availability of care for children in Pueblo. There's a drastic shortage It's been worsened by COVID. At the beginning of 2021 until just the end of August, we have lost or have closed 12 childcare programs, which cared for 151 children. That may not sound like a large percentage of slots available for care, but we only have enough licensed capacity to care for 40% of the children birthed to school age in Pueblo. So we are short childcare to begin with, and then COVID made this problem even more. And during that same time, we've only had 4 new programs open their door. So we are getting new programs, just not to the same degree that we're losing them. And some of those programs closed because the provider themselves had health issues, and COVID made them too scared to continue opening their door because they were afraid of their health decreasing or those of their family members. We have unfortunately lost some of those providers to death. This is a challenge in the United States, but made worse by COVID across the nation. So our plan is to increase the number of licensed providers, increase both quality and access to care. And I'm going to cover the steps that we're going to do to achieve this through these steps. We're going to create awareness campaign to identify potential childcare providers. We know there are people out there who want to stay home and care for their own children. Why not earn a living while doing that as well? This will be done by attending events, outreach to family, friend, and neighbor providers. Those are those providers that are unlicensed, but are still caring for children, whether it be grandparents, a neighbor caring for some of the children within the neighborhood. We want to support them to make sure that the environment where the children are being cared for the majority of the day is as healthy and safe as it possibly can be. We're going to do that through social media posts as well as distribution of flyers and posters. Second step is to provide mentorship and guidance through the zoning process, which will include fire inspections and health inspections, licensing process to include the creation of a multitude of policies and procedures that are required by the state. That's very challenging when you do not have familiarity with the state licensing system to be able to create those 36 policies and procedures that must be there. Child care assistance fiscal agreement. This is through the Department of Human Services that will allow parents the ability to afford high quality childcare. So right now we have fewer than 50% of our licensed providers contracting with the department. With the help of this money, we are going to increase that percentage to have more providers contracting with the department, which will enable more low-income families to be able to access high quality care. We're going to work on grant applications. There's a lot of money out there available for childcare programs to be able to expand the capacity that they have or to open up a childcare program, especially if you're an employer and you want to open up a childcare facility for your employees. There's millions of dollars available, and we're going to help these new providers access those funds, as well as marketing. Many of our providers are just using word of mouth to get the word out that they're providing care and some of the benefits of their program, and we're going to work with them to increase that marketing. Step number 3 is to update the provider profiles within the Children First Child Care Connection. We heard overwhelmingly through COVID, during COVID, that families could not access childcare. They didn't know where to go, so they were going to Facebook and Craigslist, which is not a good idea to go to Facebook and Craigslist to find childcare. And then we heard from providers that the state referral system at Mile High United Way, they weren't hearing from them, so they weren't getting parents. So we worked to get some local funding to be able to launch in January our own local referral system. This referral system will help parents find care through a variety of different filters, as well as if they use public transportation, it shows them what bus route that they need to take to get to the provider's house, even if it's from their home to work. So it's updating their information in there. That information includes, but isn't limited to, the ages that they provide care for, the hours and days, which evening and weekend care is drastically needed in this community. Financial assistance offered or accepted, discounts. Some providers offer multiple child discounts, and I think parents need to be aware of that. Whether the meals are provided and what transportation is offered. Many providers transport children to and from schools, and that is a huge benefit to parents, and they need to be aware of that. We're going to create and distribute flyers, posters, and yard signs to bring awareness to this local childcare resource. Step 4, we're going to work with Pueblo DHS to expand the number of providers who accept childcare assistance. As I mentioned earlier, working with providers at the beginning to understand the benefits of childcare assistance. We're going to connect providers with DHS supports, both local and state level, and we're going to help providers market that financial support to families. Step 5, we're going to work with childcare programs to apply for those financial supports to improve their level of quality. As they improve their level of quality and they're contracted with Department of Human Services, they get more money from that reimbursement, and parents benefit as well. They get a 20% discount on their portion of that childcare. So high quality and financial assistance make a great team. We're going to also, step 6, work with partners to identify and address the barriers to accessing childcare and opening up childcare businesses. We're going to do this through hosting discussion meetings, hosting focus groups, and sending surveys. What have you heard about these issues that needs our attention? So the outcomes over the next 2 years, increase the number of available licensed childcare programs from the current 124. When I submitted the proposal, it was 125. Just in that short amount of time, we lost another provider. And I say lost by closure and not by death. But we're going to increase it from 124 to 140. We're going to increase the number of licensed programs who accept CCAP from 10 by 10 from the current number of only 55. We're going to increase the number of families who are connected to childcare and local resources by 500, and where the current total is 436. 436 families have used our local system since it was launched mid-January. And those families have contacted our office to find additional resources, and our office produces and distributes the Youth and Family Resource Guide, which is the lovely multicolored tiered document that I'm sure you've seen across town. All of this will be possible with the support of the $150,000 of our request. And in closing, before I open it up for questions, everybody knows somebody who needs childcare. Questions?
Thank you. Questions, Councilor Flores?
One of the impediments that I discovered is really the state of Colorado itself. They have a lot of power in allowing people to set up a daycare center. And I don't know whether you've been involved in trying to help that, but I got involved with a lady that every time she thought she had complied with everything, they kept moving the goalpost. It was so frustrating because I got involved personally, and it wasn't until I threatened to call the governor that they actually moved and did something. It was just incredible. The obstacles that the state sets up, it's almost laughable sometimes. And but if you could take on that role and help people, it would be a tremendous asset to the community. Because that's where I think the problem is.
I totally agree. And with a team of 5 of us, we have one who has expertise in licensing, and we have one who has expertise in running a childcare center and opening it on her own in her previous career. And then myself, I owned and opened my own childcare home. So we have every aspect of licensed childcare as an expertise within our team. So I agree.
Councilor Schilling.
I love the idea, but I got to tell you, the first thing crossed my mind is I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. And Dennis was talking about all the rules and all the other things. If you can help people get through that, God love you. But I would think they'd be kind of, you're from the government, you want to help me. And I think you have a little bit of an uphill battle, but good luck.
Thank you for that. And I agree, if we are viewed, if our department is viewed as a regulatory agency, it is very challenging, but we are not a regulatory agency, and we can connect with those individuals who are doing childcare already and getting paid minimal amount of money. Let's get them licensed so that they can actually earn a living.
So then the other side of that is everybody that's going there because the cost is cheap is now their price is going to go up.
but we have assistance, financial assistance to help them with that. But you're right, friend, family, and neighbor do serve a need within the community. They provide care for nights and weekends where we don't have licensed providers to do that. I'm not saying completely eliminate friend, family, and neighbor care because they do meet a need. I'm just saying we need to have more options for more families who need that assistance.
I would suggest you have somebody with a lot of good sales experience to help you, because you're gonna need a salesperson. And that's the bottom line of what you're doing. Thank you.
Councilor Tencio.
The 5 steps, they were the need for those was because of COVID.
The need for them was made worse because of COVID. We have always needed childcare, but it's made worse because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we are hemorrhaging, losing providers quicker than we can get them onboarded. So we need to have that dedicated time to be able to address this need, to have a recruitment specialist that will be able to reach out to, we have a large group of friend, family, and neighbor providers. We can reach out to them, see who wants to become licensed. Working closely with the health department over the last couple of years, we have identified some friend, family, and neighbor providers. It just really takes staff time to be dedicated to doing this.
This variant that has taken over, is it exacerbating the problem of childcare?
Through COVID, many of the childcare programs that chose to stay open have decreased their group sizes. So they may be licensed for a certain amount, but they're actually serving much smaller group because of COVID to reduce the risk of exposure. So I would say, yes, COVID has made that worse. So they're not able to serve as many families. And as far as the new variant, we have not yet seen a huge impact on the new variant, but we also have had ample time to be able to support those programs, those childcare programs, with proper sanitation and disinfection, making sure that they have PPE, all of that stuff, where we didn't have that ability to do that when COVID hit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, childcare. Quality childcare is a huge issue across the country. I mean, it's something that really needs to be addressed and taken care of. But yeah, I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to number 8, which is the Pueblo Soup Kitchen. We have Miss Benavides and Mr. Concialdi. Thank you for coming. It's great to see you.
Well, again, thank you for having us. We'll try to keep it as short as possible and go over just a few of the things that we're requesting. Just real quick to define what happens and what we're doing with the soup kitchen. We serve 2 meals a day if you're not unfamiliar with how we do it. We serve breakfast, which is basically a continental breakfast, which consists of donuts, coffee, juice if we have it, milk if we have it. This morning we happen to have a plethora of yogurt, so they got yogurt this morning. And that takes care of breakfast from 8:30 to 9:30. And then we have lunch from 10 to 12, which we serve a hot meal, usually, or a sack lunch. Today we had enchiladas with Spanish rice and mixed vegetables, and they all got a piece of banana bread courtesy of Helen, who made homemade banana bread, which is very good. So that's basically our operation and how we do it, and she will explain the rest and how COVID has affected us and our numbers that we're seeing going up and up and up.
Good evening, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to share some information about the Pueblo Community Soup Kitchen. My name is Helen Benavides, and I've been the director there for the past 3.5 years. During this time, it's been a tremendous learning curve, if you can imagine. Learning curve had nothing to do with March of 2020, and boy, did we get hit hard. Did we get hit hard. COVID completely turned my world upside down at the soup kitchen. I had to completely revamp the way we did things. I had a lot of volunteers. I had a core of about 60 to 70 volunteers who came in Monday through Saturday. That volunteer core went away. Most of my volunteers are 60 and over, and they have health concerns, certainly, that they need to be aware of, and certainly had to be protective of themselves. During this time, as I said, because of COVID, we had to completely revamp things. We, as many of you are familiar, the last time I saw some of you was at our facility, where we had in-house dining, inside dining. We're no longer able to do that. Number one, because of lack of volunteers. Number two, because my dining room has become a warehouse. I have had to buy so many disposable paper products. And as you well know, they are all very expensive. We have gone from serving on lunch trays that were washable to using washable silverware, where we now have to do everything disposable. Paper plates, paper cups, paper napkins, plasticware. The cost is tremendous. The cost is tremendous. We have been independent for a very long time. We got our start in 1976 at a little church called St. Anthony's in the Grove area. We since have moved to our location on 7th Street. We've been there 30 plus years. I'm very proud to say that we don't do any case management there. We aren't tied to paper. We're very low tech, but we get our job done. We get our job done. The only thing that people have to come to us for is in need of a meal or want of a meal. There are no questions asked. There are no judgments passed. We are simply there to provide a service. We provide breakfast 6 days a week, and lunch 6 days a week. I now have to buy paper bags. I have to buy snack items, very expensive snack items, where in the past, the majority of our donations came in from local grocery stores. So we were able to subsidize the meals. However, I can't do that now. We serve 3 hot meals a week. We serve 3 sack lunches a week. So not only in the sack lunches do we provide them lunch, but we also try and package ramen noodles, peanut butter sandwiches, cans of Vienna sausage, so that way our folks have something to eat at dinner time, because we're not there at dinner time. So we're not only feeding them the 2 meals that we provide there, but we're providing an additional substance for them. We share our food with Sister Nancy's program, as many of you are well aware of, out at Los Pobres. We also have a distribution out at Boone that happens at the town hall. And so we not only are taking care of people here within Pueblo County, but we're trying to do as much outreach as we possibly can within our very small confines. And we're very low tech. In fact, our delivery driver picks up donations in a 1986 Ford F-150 that has over 180,000 miles on it. Okay. Right now he's putting Band-Aids on it pretty much on a regular basis. Part of the money that we are requesting would go to purchase a much needed truck so that we are able to pick up our donations in a safe and healthy manner. We have seen a tremendous change in the people that we see at the soup kitchen. May not necessarily be reflected in our numbers. However, the changes of the people that we see are night and day. We had a family of 6 come to us from Las Cruces, New Mexico. This poor woman came to the soup kitchen one day with her 4 children. I thought she was truly going to have a nervous breakdown there that day. She just didn't know where she was going to turn. She was staying at a hotel with her family. Their car broke down in the midst of all this. Their transmission went out and they had no vehicle. Her husband was trying very much to find some work, which he did find. However, they were staying at a hotel. Hotels are very expensive. This is a family of 6. So every day she'd come to the soup kitchen, pack food up for her and her family, and I'd ask one of my drivers to take her back to the hotel. I also did not want her children to be around some of the folks that we get at the soup kitchen. She was just, I wasn't sure what she was going to do. I wasn't sure if she was going to make it through the day, quite honestly. I referred out to Health Solutions. They were able to put her in touch with Posava. They got services between all of us. We were able to come together, help this family out tremendously. They have since moved on from here to Iowa, but they did so with a healthy car and healthy children and healthy husband and wife. And, you know, we do what we do for our community. And we have done a tremendous amount, but we still have so far to go. We still have so much more to do. And as I said, our numbers are, are increasing. We're seeing a lot of different people. We're seeing a lot of working families and people who were furloughed during COVID, people who lost jobs, people who lost shifts, people who lost childcare that weren't able to go to work anymore. So we're seeing a completely different population now than what we were accustomed to.
And our numbers are increasing. They go up specifically towards the end of the month due to the fact that their EBT cards or their finances, they get it at the first of the month from the government, and then towards the end of the month, we call them clients, and they're not the best in the world at budgeting. So when they have the money, they spend it, and then towards the end of the month, it's pretty much gone. Last Tuesday, when I worked down there, it was the 31st of August, and we served 158 lunches. So usually it's between 80 and 120, but at that time it was 158. So at the end, as the end of the month approaches, the need gets to be more and more, and that's when we get stuck a little bit more and more as far as volunteers go. We can't operate inside anymore because, as she says, it was a warehouse. There was no way to disinfect and clean and get everything clean per the health department and the restrictions that were put into us at that time, because the way it was, you had to disinfect everything after as the people left per table. Well, the way we used to serve was there was so many people per so many table, and these are just basically one person coming in. They sit down, they eat, and they leave. And so there was no way we had enough volunteers to come out to disinfect that one spot and then have somebody else leave and have somebody else come in, because it was just boom, 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 and still serve the number of people that we were serving. So COVID, greatly caused a big problem down there for us as far as serving inside. We're serving outside now. Winter's coming. We do have 3, and we'd like to get a couple more of those great big patio heaters that we can put out to heat. We've bought tents to serve outside, and as Helen said, our cost of supplies has skyrocketed. The sugar, staples, and things of that nature, but especially plasticware and things of that need to be disposed of. So that's you do have a chart in there that shows that how much it's increased. This is just for this year, but July and August numbers have gone up significantly. They're going to continue to do so, and I can't say for sure or project how things are going to go. But because of the fact of a lot of the clients that we see are they were renting, and their rent wasn't due, or they didn't have to pay their rent, but now they may start having to pay rent or get kicked out of their houses, and that we're anticipating may even cause us a higher number to go up. Can't say that for sure. Have no proof of that. It just looks like that could happen, and if that does happen, were really going to be in need of the money. So, so that's it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Questions, comments? Councillor Tencio.
I just want to tell you a story. And I know everything that you do because I've been somewhat involved. My daughter was 14 years old back when you were in the Grove. I took her down there one day because she wanted to do some community work. And I dropped her off at 8 o'clock in the morning. They put her in the walk-in to clean it, which was the dirtiest, ugliest job she ever had in her whole life, today included. She lasted the whole summer with you guys. She continued serving people to this day. She worked with DS. She graduated from college. She stayed in serving people. She worked for DSS. She worked in the incest unit, in the child protection unit of the DSS. She's now working with substance abuse people. But I think it was you guys that really nailed her to her chosen profession, and she was 14 years old.
Thank you for that.
But I know what you guys do, and I know the reason. I'm not going to grill you on why you're asking for the money, because.
And we do partner with municipal court and with.
Oh, she didn't have to go to municipal court.
Well,
She just,
but no, but
she's a
you know,
volunteer.
certainly we get community service workers that come to us, and they love it so much they end up turning into volunteers. Was my point. Not that your daughter came to us.
No, I insisted that my
But
children.
certainly, you know,
volunteer all over the
I
place.
tell everybody this is the hardest job you will ever love,
Yeah, true.
and it truly
True.
is.
Yeah, and it was because of you guys that she, I think she continued in that field to this day. And she's close to 50 now.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, anyway.
Councillor McCauley-Bachicha.
So I became familiar with the Pueblo Soup Kitchen, probably the early 2000s. I see Shanna Farmer in the crowd, but we were on Pueblo Teen Council, and the soup kitchen was our baby with Zola back in the day, and absolutely a labor of love. And I can only imagine your demand now, and thank you for all you do. You guys do make an impact in this community, and we do need you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the time.
We'll move on to Colorado Legal Services.
I have to leave. I have an emergency at home.
Gail Radosevich. Hey, how are you? It's great to see you.
More about Colorado Legal Services and a proposed eviction diversion program. My name's Gail Radosevich, and I'm going to explain how we can put into effect immediately a long-term initiative that will help address the eviction crisis that's looming on the horizon. I'm the pro bono coordinator for Colorado Legal Services. I'm also the chair of the Access to Justice Committee for the 10th JD. The eviction crisis is the perfect storm that is a potential to be more than a short-term crisis and really be worse than the housing crash of 2008. CLS is the only statewide grantee and who can provide high legal services to those with low incomes and vulnerable populations in the state of Colorado. The mission of CLS is to provide civil legal services. The mission of the Access to Justice Commission is to provide access to the courts, especially for those who are encountered barriers. Many of you may remember CLS as part of the Pikes Peak, Arkansas River Legal Aid Program in Pueblo before we merged with Colorado Legal Services in 1999. Colorado Legal Services has 13 offices statewide. The Pueblo office is located in the Midtown Shopping Center, 1000 West 6th Street. All of our clients must be eligible by income. They must be citizens of the United States or legal permanent residents. We can make exceptions for victims of domestic violence. The goal of the eviction diversion program is not just settling with landlords, but is about keeping people housed in a safe and stable way. This pilot would be the first eviction diversion program in the state of Colorado. The eviction diversion and housing stability program would formalize social, legal, mediation, and housing services into a clear and coordinated process to reach a settlement plan that works for both the landlord and the tenants. The diversion program would be a wraparound service coordinating multiple streams of service, including rental assistance to make the landlord and the tenant whole again and to make up for rent that's owed, legal representation to ensure that the law is being followed and people's rights are being upheld, including keeping eviction records off of credit reports, mediation services to help broker a settlement agreement and a payment plan, and other forward steps for both the landlord and the tenant. All of the other financial and social services put in place would help stabilize the tenant's situation, get more financial resources, connect to housing resources, help support the children involved, and to get the health resources that may be needed. Unique characteristics of this program are key to success by doing early and preventative outreach for services that centers on the users, both tenants and landlords, throughout the entire process. Eviction is costly and damaging for all parties involved. For tenants, eviction is a cause and not just a condition of poverty, precipitating a spiral of financial stability that ends in decades of poor health and economic hardship. For landlords, evictions have become a routine part of the collection process that also comes with a surprising cost. For our communities, evictions break down communal bonds and burden the court system with crowded dockets and administrative fees. The on-site services are a real benefit. There would be attorneys available to immediate access to legal counsel, communication with landlords and tenants, and the opportunity for early intervention using mediation. A skilled DHS technician who would be on site to access immediate resources in real time. For landlords, studies have shown that it's often less expensive to support these programs than to evict tenants. For tenants, anywhere from 67% to upwards of 90% who receive early assistance will avoid eviction. For communities, early eviction programs reduce eviction filings, and the trickle-down effect to the communities is startling. It decreases the need for social services. Stabilized housing especially impacts the mental and the physical health of families and also the education success of the children involved. Key to working with the court for an on-site program is the ability to staff it. The ARPA funding will allow us to pilot this program with a dedicated housing attorney. We can supplement the staffing with our CLS staff attorneys, paralegals, and also pro bono attorneys as needed. Tracking data, feedback, and sustainability of outcomes will be key to housing stability successes. Notably, both the landlords and tenants include housing stability among the metrics of success. The Pueblo program is modeled after Kalamazoo, Michigan. In the first 5 years, Kalamazoo saw a 50% decrease in executed evictions and a 9% decrease in homelessness. 85% of those who participated in a mediation reached agreement. The moratorium on evictions has been a short-term solution for a long-term, for a stopgap for this pandemic. What we believe we'll see is related directly to the pandemic. In 2019, there were almost 1,200 evictions filed. We don't know what's going to happen now that the moratorium is over, but we expect it to be at least the same and perhaps double or more than that once we reach October 1st. Putting this eviction diversion program in place would be the beginning to a long-term initiative for Pueblo County. The opportunity. Sorry. I apologize. We do have real opportunity here. We can come together as a community to set the bar high for the state of Colorado. There are only 3 other counties at this time with court eviction programs. This model has the attention of the National State Court Program and also the Attorney General's office. The AG has offered assistance to track data and outcomes to support the opportunity to expand this program into other parts of the state. Pueblo would be the only eviction diversion program in Colorado to provide a point of crisis service and mediation to help both the landlords and the tenants resolve their issues without resorting to an eviction, by intervening into the case before it's filed, before the hearing, and before the eviction is executed and the tenant is removed from their home. This model is premised on the idea that early intervention can effectively meet the needs of all parties. The landlord gets paid, the tenants get housed, and our community will benefit. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Do you happen to know how many of these households involve children? What percentage?
I don't have the exact number, but Colorado Legal Services and the overall legal services that we provide, upwards of 70 to 80 and 80% of the households involve children.
Councilor Schilling.
I'm sure you want this program to continue on forever. So where are you going to come get the funds when ARPA's gone?
What has happened in the past and what we hope would happen is when we pilot a program, and usually the pilots are grant funded, then we have time to look for permanent funding. And Colorado Legal Services has done that with several other programs. We would hope to do that again.
So are you telling me this is a one-time thing? You won't come back to council and ask for yearly support?
I can tell you that we're asking for 3 years funding for this pilot program. And at the end of 3 years, we will know if we have a benefit, a community benefit.
Is the county going to be involved in this also?
We made the proposal to the county as well. We haven't heard back from the county.
Thank you.
You know, I'm all in, and I've always felt that if, you know, we spent a lot of time, as I have over the last 3.5 years, on working with the homeless problem. And I always felt that if one of the big answers to homelessness has to be you intervene before they become homeless. And this is specifically a program that deals with that. I was a little disturbed though when I heard your numbers where in Kalamazoo, was it? In Kalamazoo, that it only reduced homelessness by 9%. You would think if 80% of it was successful, it would have reduced homelessness more. But maybe there's not a correlation as big a correlation with evictions and homelessness as my mind thinks there is. But you would think that it would make a huge difference, that if you're not feeding into the community, these families that have lost their homes because of hardship, that our homeless numbers would not increase, but they would substantially decrease because now there's a program in place.
And we based this one on Kalamazoo, which is a very good model and looked like it would be a good fit for Pueblo that we could tweak and get up running and provide service as soon as possible. Boston also had a program that in the first 6 months, 96% of those who were part of the mediation program a year after were still housed. Yeah. And so I think there's a correlation between keeping people housed and homelessness, but those were the stats from Kalamazoo.
From Kalamazoo. Mm-hmm. It may have a larger effect on us as a community. Anyway, I'm all in. Thank you. That's a great program. Anybody else?
Thank you for the
opportunity. Thanks for coming. We're now moved to All Pueblo Grows Community Garden. And I believe we have Mr. Stoll. Yes. Great to see you. Glad you're here.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present before you tonight. I want to talk first of all about the All Pueblo Grows Seed Lending Library, which has been going since 2013. I became involved in 2014 after graduating the Master Gardener program with the CSU Extension Office. We provide free seeds to the community in order to help them plant their own gardens. We also provide the last Saturday of every month an educational presentation that is season specific. So for instance, in January, February, March, we just start talking about starting seeds indoors. And then we talk about transplanting plants out into the garden, and then talk about diseases and insects in the garden. And so right now we're currently talking about seed saving, preserving foods. Next month we'll be talking about doing food preservation with Laura, I forget her name, but she's the extension agent that has to do with food preservation. So our request is we are, well, let me just back up just a little bit. Last year, we were able to secure funding for buying seeds for the seed library. Because of the COVID, we were not able to do our presentations in the library like we normally do. And so we had to purchase some of those little free library boxes and put them out into the community. And with our seed buy, we developed little kits. So we had salsa kit, we had a children's kit, which is extremely popular. And we had a salsa kit and just a general vegetable kit. So we bought enough seeds to produce 400 kits. I think we have about 20 kits left, and of course, the children's kits went really fast because everybody wants to have activities for the children. So that was really good. We did our presentations online on Zoom. So because of the different format, we've kind of lost some of our visitorship, if you will. But we do maintain a YouTube channel. So we keep all our presentations that are in the past online on a YouTube channel, which is maintained by the CSU Extension Office. So our current request, our proposal is for $8,000, $7,000 to purchase seeds and $1,000 for supplies. The supplies that we need in order to produce the kits that we need are bags, there's coin envelopes that we put the seeds into if they need repackaging, because sometimes when we buy the seeds, they're in bulk. And so our volunteers have to break those down into usable packets of seeds. I don't know what else I can say about the All Pueblo Grows. It's a great program. Again, we've been going since 2014. We are modeled off of the one in Manitou Springs. When we first started, we visited the West Cliff Seed Library and the Manitou Seed Library, and one of our other volunteers visited another one in Kansas somewhere. So it's been a very successful program. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? Good. Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate everything you do in the community. I mean, I think this is a good program, and it definitely has a benefit for sure. So
yeah, thank you.
I saw a place where the city they had all these empty lots where within these disadvantaged communities.
Mm-hmm.
And the city would deed the lot to the neighborhood, and then the neighborhood would go in there and they just build gardens that would feed the whole blocks. I mean, it'd be 2 or 3 blocks of individuals.
And that's kind of the intention of the All Pueblo Grows Seed Lending Library. The main focus of that is being able to teach people how to grow their own food in their own environment. With the community garden support program, I'll be talking a little bit more about that when it's appropriate.
It's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, it's this time of year that everybody calls you up and says, do you want some squash?
Right.
Oh, yes.
You're like, no, I don't want any squash.
Yeah,
I've got
this
2
is
apple
also the
trees.
time of year where we pack up all of our extras and take it out of town and shove it through people's windows.
Good deal.
Just
Good
kidding.
deal.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
5-minute break.
Oh,
and then we'll begin. Thank you, Mr. Stowe. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back in 5 minutes, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock we'll start. Okay, we're ready to get rolling again. And now we're moving on to
Wastewater.
where's that
Garden.
at? Same thing? Okay,
It's not exactly the same thing, but it's related somewhat.
okay.
Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. The miracle, first of all, let me tell you a little more about who I am. My name is Derek Stoll, in case you didn't know. I started the Miracle Community Garden over on the south side at 2111 South Pueblo Boulevard in 2013 with the help of the church that I attend there, the Milagro Christian Church. In 2014, as I was previously talking, I started with leading the All Pueblo Grows Seed Lending Library with the Extension Office. I'm also the co-chair of the Pueblo Food Project Leadership Committee. I've been an active member in the community garden movement since at least 2013 when we started the work and became involved with the community garden movement. There are several community gardens in town. And we all kind of work together and collaborate. So the goal of this particular proposal is to help people to grow their own food. Community gardens, of course, face the same barriers when getting started and keeping existing gardens running. Items like the cost of irrigation, soil, ground cover, seeds, plants, water costs, and maintenance fees. For instance, the backflow preventers is a $50 certification, and I think it's every other year is $150 startup fee. And I might have those figures wrong. I might have them reversed, but I know that there's a $150 fee that's in there that if you have a backflow preventer on your property, you have to have that recertified every year. It's expensive. So this project responds to those barriers and creates the shared resources and deepens the community ties. As we've been talking about with food deserts, food access has become a real issue during the COVID. The more people that learn how to grow their own food, the better off I think that we all are in trying to alleviate some of the problems with food deserts. Who's going to do the work of this particular proposal? The initial leadership team will consist of the current garden leaders of the existing community gardens. The volunteers will be recruited and are currently being recruited at public informational forums, listening sessions, farmers markets, mobile food pantries, Facebook posts, educational events at existing gardens. Some meetings in the future will be at the gardens on an alternating basis so we can better facilitate learning, discussion, and planning together while we work in the gardens. I am open to any questions you may have at this point.
Thank you. Questions, comments? We're good, Derek.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Sorry we made you wait 10 minutes to finish. Sorry.
That's quite all right. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to SCEDD, Eric Gubelman. It's great to see you. Hey, thanks for waiting all night to come talk to us.
This is old week for me.
All right.
I was a city administrator in a town of 25,000. And when I was a wee pup in my teens, my father was the mayor of a small town in Illinois. And the council meetings used to go to midnight. So you guys got nothing on me.
Oh,
so,
hallelujah.
Yeah. I feel a little bit like the horse that's on the trail and we're past the halfway mark. We're heading back to the barn. So I want to giddy up so you can all get to the hay as quickly as you can. But I'll take a few minutes. I'm the executive director of Southern Colorado Economic Development District. And I am pleased to report that I'm bringing you one new citizen here in a couple of weeks. My daughter is relocating out to Pueblo and is taking a job with Target. So I'm doing my part. Okay. SCED is a so go ahead and let's put that up if you don't mind. Is that me? There we go. SCED's Economic Development District under the auspices of the Economic Development Administration, part of the Department of Commerce. We have 13 counties. We've been around since 1968. We have 4 subregions that we service: Pueblo and Pueblo County 1, the south central area of Huerfano and Los Animas County, the southeastern plains, the 6 counties out there, and then the Mountain West, Fremont, Custer, Chaffee, and Lake County. So we are the hub and the spokes of Southern Colorado, and we're in the hub right now. SCED does a number of services, and one of the effects of COVID is a great need to expand our service portfolio because of the need for resiliency and recovering from COVID. So what we're talking about tonight is broadband planning and implementation, but we're also involved in attainable housing, capacity building, COVID small business assistance, and helping small businesses finance, and providing grant writing and planning services. I did want to mention real quickly on the COVID-19 small business assistance, we are cooperating with the city of Pueblo, where you folks wrote a grant on our behalf with the SBA, and we're waiting to hear whether we're going to get that. But that was a cooperative effort with the mayor's office and the mayor's grant writer to try to bring 2 years worth of services to the region. I mentioned that we're sort of the hub and spokes, and you guys are the hub of Southern Colorado, and you account for 55% of the GDP in the region, and you are the cultural and economic leader of this region, and we take that very seriously. And we're one of the few organizations that has a regional focus. Action 22 maybe being another, and a couple others, but we believe as Pueblo goes, so goes the region. We also believe that as Leadville goes, so goes the region, and as Backett County goes, so goes the region. We are seeking to increase, this is the point where I tell you the broadband story. A year ago when I came here, I dusted off the 3 broadband regional studies that were done for these 13 counties, and not one of them was done specifically for Pueblo County. The South Central study covered the southern half of Pueblo County, but neglected Pueblo West. But the common element of these 3 studies was that nothing much had happened since the studies had been done 4 years ago. They were dust magnets, with some exceptions, but that's what they were. And so I started asking around. I said, who's doing this? What are we missing? And what I heard from CCOM, from the federal office, the state broadband office, and from Region 10 is that there needs to be more regional planning done, that this is not something you can solve on a city basis. It's not something you solve on a county basis. You need to think bigger. And the group that was pointed out to me as understanding this was Region 10, which is the Montrose Gunnison area. And in the last 5 years, they have developed 476 miles of fiber. And I reached out to them and said, tell me your story. SCED's interested in helping. And they said, well, we've been wondering when we were going to hear from southeastern Colorado, because it's been pretty quiet there for the last 5 years. And they just started 5 years earlier than we did. And so we have been absorbing the lessons from those around us, including the lessons from the state broadband office. And they say what you need is more regional planning, but local implementation. We're developing a specialized expertise in broadband, where we want to be the planning leadership and provide financial capacity. I'm sorry, let me back up. We're trying to develop a specialized expertise in broadband, but Pueblo has some unique needs and some unique opportunities. Pueblo Pueblo is attractive for broadband. You can attract private investment. You cannot attract private investment on the Southeast Plains. The Southeastern Plains have gone about as far as they can go without subsidy. You guys have suitors because you have population density. You are a target, and you are also the regional leader in the region. So we want to create a staff that will live and breathe broadband. And I think the question that you've got to ask is what's in it for Pueblo? Because you do have suitors, right? You're not in a vacuum. You're not going to be the big recipients of grant funding for broadband. But what we can offer you is we can supplement your existing expertise with a professional broadband coordinator who's a network engineer. And we have access to consultants because we're plugged into the state and the regional level, and we can find the people who can help you make the best possible deal for the citizens of Pueblo. We also have the ability to, from our contacts, to bring some national suitors to the table that may or may not be on your radar screen. And finally, we need you guys to exercise more regional leadership because you are the hub of Southern Colorado, and broadband is an issue where you can exercise that leadership and get some benefits as well. I mentioned there's 4 regions, and one of the things that's kind of hard to grasp is that the difference between regional planning and local implementation. We are trying to create a broadband coordinator, not a broadband czar. We're not trying to impose anything, but we're certainly not trying to impose a single technological solution across the region. We are trying to bring together the region to figure out what works on a local basis. For instance, here in the next 3 to 5 years, you should have a goal of having ubiquitous fiber to the home so that you're future-proof for broadband. But out on the Southeast Plains, where there's not the population, their goal in the next 3 to 5 years might be to have a wireless solution that gives them 100 gig up and 100 gig down service. But it's the money that's coming from the federal government has a premium on regional thinking. For instance, we were working on an NTIA grant, which we ultimately couldn't pull off in time because the deadlines were so tight. And we had a project from Kim to Trinidad lined up. And then we had a project in West Cliff and Silver Cliff we were working on, but we were balancing that with a project that we would have done in Pueblo West. And it's the combination of being able to pick different parts of the region and bringing it together that's one of the things that's attractive to funders. So the solutions for any particular part of the SCED region are different, but the ubiquity of broadband is universal. And it's the regional planning that helps you get to that ubiquity. SCED in the city, SCED's an old organization. We've been around since 1968, but in the last 4 years, you haven't heard much about us. If you put a mirror to our nose, you might not have clouded the mirror. There's barely a pulse there. But we've been rebuilding in the last 2 years, and we are trying to bring the region together, and we are trying to develop our partnership with the city of Pueblo. Skill, the Southern Colorado Innovation Link, is a project from Pueblo Community College, and it is involved in creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's a complementary organization to PEDCO. PEDCO is focused on the primary shops, Skill's focused on growing the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So that's one way that we're active here. And Skill, it's not a SCED project, but it's an EDA project. We wrote the grant for Skill, and they're having a lot of success. I mentioned we'd applied for the SBA grant, and that's the SBA Navigator. Broadband coordination is what we're talking about tonight. We are currently working with the mayor's office and trying to help strengthen the Build Back Better application that is being talked about right now. And we're talking about the technology innovation cluster application. And we have a common need to bring funds into this region. If you wanted to summarize what we are, we're the intermediary that nudges you and that nudges La Junta and that nudges Lamar and nudges Leadville to start thinking more regionally and less parochially. And that's kind of our mission. So what we have as a proposal to you is to offer you a 3-year membership in SCED, and you would be the first municipal member that we have. Right now, we have county memberships and county dues, and we would like to bring you into some leadership position. We would like there to be a mayor and council appointment to the board seat. From our broadband fund that we're going to talk about here in a minute, we would fund up to $100,000 in outside consulting for public-private partnership fiber to the home project. I mean, that's kind of the area that you guys are heading to. And we think that we can add value by providing some outside expertise in there. We would like city representation on the hiring committee to pick a broadband coordinator. I haven't gone into the details of what we're about now. I'll say that for just a minute. We would offer you 100 hours of workforce housing consultant with our senior planner and 250 hours a year of grant writing under supervision of your grant office. The goals of what we're proposing are to help you get the best deal for the city for broadband. We're a partner to promote broadband regionally, and we provide entrepreneurial housing expertise and additional grant capacity to the city, and start to midwife a more prominent role for Pueblo as a regional leader. We're asking for 1% of your city's ARPA allotment, approximately $367,000. This will, and let me tell you a little bit more about the global ask, because that's your ask. But we are asking every county in the region to put 1.5% of their ARPA money into a pot. And we're asking the city for 1%, and that's going to add up to something north of 1.2 million if every cat was herded into the bag, which that's not going to happen, but we're going to get as close as we can. So let's just use $1.2 million. We would spend that money in a variety of ways. One of the ways would be to match a DOLA grant, a planning grant, to take those documents that gather dust and turn them not into a new strategic plan, not a plan that's copy and paste and said, oh, you need broadband because broadband is important to the economy. Message received. But what we want to do is have a broadband implementation plan that says, here's the 15 projects that are going to deploy broadband broadly into the region, and then start systematically knocking them off. And that's about a $270,000 project to do that. And half of that money would come from DOLA. The other half would be $135,000, that $1.2 million. We would set aside about $300,000 to increase our capacity to do grant writing, not only in conjunction with the city of Pueblo, but in conjunction with the rural areas that have virtually no capacity. And that's one of the changes we've noticed in COVID is it's very hard to chase money in the federal ecosystem if you don't have some capacity to do it. And $300,000 is not going to go directly to hire a grant writer, but it would be indirectly to do that, because we would use that to help pay for some planning resources. And then next year, we're going to be making some money on housing, and we're going to divert that to hiring a grant writer. But indirectly, $300,000 of ARPA money would go in that direction. If we were fully funded, about $675,000 of that 1.2 million would be a project seed fund. You can't use ARPA money as federal match, but you can use ARPA money for state match, and you can use ARPA money for that part of federal projects that are not grant eligible. So we're talking about all the preliminary engineering work that people have to come up with on their own. We would have a seed fund in order to do that. So that's $675,000. There's about $90,000. We're applying for, let me back up. We're going to apply for an EDA grant of approximately $600,000 that is going to pay the salary of a broadband coordinator and another 1.3 FTEs so that we can do these projects. But that money, even if we jump on this and get it applied for on October 1st, we're not going to see it until March. So about 90,000 of this 1.2 million would be used as sort of bridge money, because we've got to get a broadband coordinator on staff here in the next couple of months. We've got to get a grant person on staff in the next couple of months, because the money is coming down now and we're missing grant opportunities. We missed an NTIA grant where we could have had we had a decent shot at $15 million for the region, but we couldn't pull it off because we didn't have the resources available. Let's see, I'm done. We're almost to the barn, but you guys have got questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Questions, Councilor Flores?
Has the region been defined? You've been talking about a region. Tell me what the region looks like.
The region is 13 counties. It includes the 4 counties in the Mountain West: Fremont, Custer, Chaffee, Lake. That's a sub-region, let's call that. Pueblo County is a sub-region, the city and the county. The South Central sub-region is Huerfano and Los Animas County. And then the Southeastern Plains are the 6 counties, and I'm going to rattle them off, but I'm probably going to miss one. Otero, Bent, Kiowa, Crowley, Prowers, and Baca did it. So that's the
region right now. And then you indicated that there's the potential of private investment. What is in it for these investors that they would use their own money to make this happen?
You mean in Pueblo, for example?
Yeah.
Population density. You have a customer base that is sufficient in size that it's easier. You've got some challenges that are not attractive to private investors. It's your alley system makes some of the construction costs higher, but you're a lot more attractive than La Junta or Eads.
Has anyone done a study of even individual sections of the region to tell us where we start? In other words, is there anybody that's developed the baseline from which we can now, go forward in implementing broadband?
Somewhat. There were 3 broadband studies that were done 4 years ago, and they were strategic studies, so they were a little bit short on specifics. But that is the place to start. And they were a little bit short on specifics, and they also had holes in them. Pueblo was not in there, and Pueblo West was not in there. Those 3 studies were supplemented by a separate study that was specific to Custer County. And as a result of that study and the Custer County study, those folks have gone ahead and they're working on a $2 million project to put up 6 towers to provide wireless service to 80% of the county addresses at 100 meg up and down speeds. So when I say that those things gathered dust, they didn't all gather dust, but they mostly gathered dust. So that is an example, Counselor, of a strategic study that is a place to start, but it needs to be, you need to blow through that to get to a blueprint. It's not just that we need broadband, it's here are the projects. So I could draw a map for you and show you where middle mile is strong in the region, where middle mile is weak. But that's not the same thing as having, I know enough to be dangerous, right? I want to give this portfolio to somebody who knows a whole lot more than me and to hire the person with the credentials. And what makes it smart to do this is we can spread that cost over 13 counties instead of trying to do it ourselves.
You had mentioned too that we should be ahead of the game. It's almost like building a house with all the electrical apparatus that you need, but we're not quite getting the electricity in there. Is that what you're saying? Is that we should be planning for the eventuality of broadband being brought into people's homes or businesses? And that, did I misunderstand you when you said that, that we should be thinking ahead of the game, I guess, in our planning?
Let me take another crack at that because I don't think I explained myself very well. In relationship to what Region 10 started doing 5 years ago, they started this regional process and they are ahead of us. If you go into Montrose, the fiber is ubiquitous in that community. So they have a 5-year head start on us. The equalizer in this is the fact that the federal government is pouring a lot of resources into this. And for us to play catch up, we need to have the capacity to chase that money with the people with the technical expertise to put the stuff together. And does that better answer what
yeah, that's a better explanation. And then my last question has to do with all of us live to develop economic development for our community. This is almost, wouldn't you say that broadband is going to hinder us if we don't get this done in our city, and any potential of large economic development projects without, looking at the future and making sure that we have broadband?
It's a prerequisite. And you notice that what's happening in your housing market is that people are fleeing Denver for cheaper places, and they're looking around, and they're not just looking at whether Pueblo has sufficient broadband. They're looking at the region as a whole. Like, hey, maybe I want to live in La Junta because the housing prices are less. So they're looking at Southern Colorado as an entity. And you guys don't compare well with Denver in broadband, and the rural areas don't compare well with the rural areas in the rest of the state because we're 5 years behind. Thank you.
Councilor Winter?
Hey, I just have a question. So this is a new project for you.
For SCAD, yes, it is.
Okay, because right now you're doing economic development for these other counties.
This is an economic development project, but
Well, it
yes.
says you have existing services. So what are you working on now?
2 years ago, there was only a single employee in SCAD, and we were providing technical assistance and some broad-based planning efforts. The statutory requirement for an economic development district is to do a 5-year comprehensive economic development strategy. So for the last 4 or 5 years, SCAD had been coasting on doing that and then providing minimal levels of technical assistance. My predecessor is your grant writer, Shelley Dunham. Shelley and I knew each other 30 years ago in Illinois. I hired her twice and made her cry twice. And so we have this long history, and she recruited me when she came to the city, says, this is up your alley. Will you come take a look at it? And so I came out, and my diagnosis was that SCAD needed to be relevant and sustainable. And what would make us relevant and sustainable is to focus on broadband, to focus on workforce housing, to focus on grant writing.
Basically, this is a new business that you're planning on getting grants for.
We are planning. I don't think I'd phrase it that way. I would say we are looking to hire a broadband coordinator and a number 2 and a grant writer to plug into the existing ecosystem that the rest of the state is plugged into. And that includes getting money, and that includes.
It just sounds like a new business to me.
Yeah.
And you're working on the prospect of maybe you'll get these grants.
I've been discussing well, okay. People are going to get broadband grants
Okay,
all over the question, but you got to apply for them.
right.
That's the first thing. And number two, in order to apply for them, you need to know what you're doing in terms of the technical side of it. I'm saying that in this region, there isn't a single entity that's living and breathing broadband, and that we want to become that as part of our portfolio. So that's a fair statement.
A fair statement that it's a new business.
Yeah, I think I look upon what I'm doing.
You're getting this together and you're going to hire somebody that knows about broadband and you're going to apply for some grants.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I will accept that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our last presentation, which is Pueblo Wastewater. Nancy Keller. Hi, Nancy.
I just have a few pages about selenium I wanted to go through for you. No? Oh. I'm just kidding. So tonight what I wanted to talk to you about is development, and if you can. So this map shows two developments that will require the city to install connecting infrastructure. The purple line there is the infrastructure that we would need to install. This was put off many years ago to assist the YMCA with their development of their campus. And so the developments, the annexations that are being proposed need to have that infrastructure installed for them to be able to connect to the city system. It's about 6,200 lineal feet and estimated to cost $1.5 to $2 million to do the installation. Geotechnical bores have shown that there's groundwater and there's rock, as well as the fact that the line is going to be really deep. And so it could potentially have some issues that could push it up into the $2 million range. So there's two developments. The area that's in the blue is the WL Enterprise has been proposed to the city, going from close to Highway 50 all the way up to Dillon or Platteville, it turns into at that point. This development will include areas that have some business towards 50. It'll have housing and it will have industrial capacity as well, with the railroad tracks that's going through there. Their development is going to be required to do all of the sanitary sewer within the development area, as well as they will have to extend the line to Highway 50, bore under 50, and then take it to the point of connection with the purple line. That's approximately where Spalding comes in by Southern Colorado Clinic. The other significantly sized development that's been proposed is the pink area, which is Wild Horse annexation. That one from 50, and then it is surrounded by a fair amount of Pueblo West and county properties, county subdivisions. That one actually can connect to, and let me go to the bigger map here. That one can actually connect with the gold line that comes down and serves that area that is Southern Colorado Clinic. So that bore under the highway there was done by CDOT for their facility, and they can come through that bore and connect in, but that system does not have the capacity to handle it. They would have to pay for 8,000 linear feet of upsizing of the lines to be able to do their development. That fair number of that area is going to be in paved roads, so they would have high costs for asphalt improvements. With this 21-inch extension that's shown in purple, with that instead, they would be able to follow the red line across up close to Highway 50. They can follow that red line across and go underneath Wild Horse Creek Arroyo and connect back into that same line that's being extended by WL that will connect to our facility, our collection system, making it far less expensive for them. Doesn't eliminate their responsibilities for all of the development within their area or the extension to it. It just makes our system available to where they can connect to us. So these developments right now, when you're trying to come out of COVID, these developments will help provide jobs to build that infrastructure. You're going to bring in businesses along Highway 50. You're going to have industrial areas, and each of those is going to help provide jobs that will be lost if you don't have the infrastructure within the city to be able to support these systems. Right now, the project design is required with WL annexation to do the design work. They have hired North Star to do it, and it is very close to we did a 95% review. The only thing now is to upsize from an 18 to a 21 inch so the second annexation can connect to it with Wild Horse. Once the city approves that design, we're going to put it out to bid, and we can potentially start this by the end of 21 or early of 22. And so this is a project that is ready to go soon. So the benefits to this type of a project will help Pueblo financially recover from the pandemic with the creation of jobs. And as they build that infrastructure, the businesses and industries and desperately needed homes. And I don't know if I should admit this here, but I live in the north side of Pueblo West, and the housing building out there is just unbelievable, with people coming in from Colorado Springs wanting to buy houses in Pueblo because it's so much cheaper. And if we don't have houses available for this influx, those individuals and jobs are going to go somewhere else that would support the businesses that would provide the services. These jobs will not only help the citizens, but it's going to help support the businesses that support those projects with the supplies that they need to build. And those dollars are going to circle around and around within Pueblo. With that, I can take any questions. Nothing about selenium.
Thank you. Thank you for staying away from selenium.
Mark's favorite subject.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Flores.
I just have one. This is so important. And my question, I guess, is more to maybe our legal counsel or our mayor. This is a project that we could authorize right away. I mean, we don't have to wait, do we, to go through vetting all of the things that are going. In my mind, this is a priority. And I guess my question is, if we can get this thing started sooner than later, there's no impediment for council to authorize this.
None. This is a project we're recommending that council authorize to the tune of $2 million, up to $2 million. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that and make sure that we all understood that we're not going to wait. We don't have to wait. I guess we could wait, but I believe that this is important enough that we take action on it as soon as possible.
I'm just still blown away from the last presentation. I didn't hear anything you said.
Would you like me to do it again?
I have a question on Wild Horse. Is that part of the city? Or does it have to be annexed into the city?
Both of these have to be annexed.
So shouldn't they be annexed before we commit to the?
There's an annexation agreement prepared. I don't think it's signed yet.
Well, could we get that signed before we approve it?
Yeah.
I I mean, is that important? Am I worried about something that I shouldn't be worried about?
Well, we've got to put this in for that to be annexed at any point. I mean, whether these particular developers go through with it or not.
You're right.
It seems to me that somebody eventually will, because that's a highly traveled intersection.
Sure.
It's gonna be developed if there's that infrastructure in place to service it. They don't have to spend it. We'll gotta make sure that it's all contingent.
One of those developers has actually looked at this multiple times over a number of years, and that has been the thing that has stopped it because they didn't have a way to connect to our system.
Sure. I hear you.
Can I?
Councilor Schilling?
I just want to be real clear. We're not giving the nod for funding all these tonight, correct? This was informational. We're not giving the okay to fund these tonight. We were simply giving information on them.
We can't take any action.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilor
Question.
Leonard?
So is there any way that council can get together in executive session to hash some of these things out?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Just to brainstorm. I mean, I think this is really important.
Yeah, executive session, as you know, is very limited with its exceptions. Any brainstorming is not an exception to the open meetings law.
Okay, maybe brainstorming is a wrong word.
Right.
We'd go into executive session to discuss the merits of projects that are being brought before us. The next thing I know, we don't do that.
So could we have an open work session that we're just discussing among ourselves about each project?
That would be appropriate.
You went on that?
Yeah, I'm good with it. We'll get it on. Well, is this on first reading Monday?
Yes, well, some of them are on for, they're all on for final action. The one's an emergency ordinance, the other's a resolution. So.
So there's no way you're gonna have a work session and be able to.
We can declare what we think at the vote. Pardon me? Maybe we can say what we think at the vote, discuss it there. Instead of having another vote.
Well, I think the intent tonight is to get direction. All of these projects have been approved by the law department except SCED.
Except what?
SCED.
Skip. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the American Recovery Plan Act is very clear that for water, sewer, and broadband, you must spend the money on infrastructure. Congress didn't say, okay, you could spend the money on broadband implementation or broadband expansion. They were very clear, it's infrastructure. Infrastructure meets construction. Therefore, hiring a grant writer, hiring a broadband coordinator is not permissible under ARPA. But all the others are ready to go. It's a question of now whether you want to discuss it now, or is there anyone that anyone objects to?
I just objected.
Because I can tell you that
to the broadband one.
these people need the money now. The soup kitchen needs it now. Colorado Rural Legal Services needs it now. Evictions are going to go up because the moratorium is over.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about that one.
Well, I don't think any of us have any problem with anything else other than that Southern
SCAD.
Colorado.
That doesn't make work, John. That's how do I increase my membership?
Yeah, well,
Well, that's not on the agenda either.
no, I have not approved that
It's
one.
not on the agenda. We're still trying to.
So we'll
work
bring
through
that
the
up.
details. So that one's not on the agenda. You don't need to worry about that.
Good, great. Then we can relax and sleep good for the rest of the week. Anybody
what
else
we're
have
concerned.
anything? We are adjourned.